Okay. Oop. There we are. Hi, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you might happen to be. Welcome to the Infinity Systems April end of month 2022 scruffy as hell, lazy as hell live stream. So we're still waking up a little bit. Let's go ahead and give a thumbs up or hit me a note if you guys can hear me okay. I do have the ceiling fan going, so if there's like a whop, whop, whop in the background, please let me know and we can go ahead and turn that off at some point. But just please drop a comment if you can hear us okay. Try to keep this from auto-focusing all the time. Okay, thank you, Jocelyn. We appreciate that. Okay, thank you, Starry Girl. Alrighty. Hey, 420 Wetch. Good to see you. How did your surgery and whatnot go? I mean, well, obviously you had it already, but you're recovering nicely from it, we hope. Okay, excellent. Got lots of good thumbs up. Let me go ahead and run down the list here and see if there's anybody that we missed. Let me go ahead and close the door here real quick. Okay, there we go. A little less noise. And we'll just kill the glasses now because we always end up taking them off anyway. So let's see if I can shift this just a little bit. There we go. Looks pretty good. Okay, let's check the tablet here, which hopefully won't run out on us in the middle of the thing. I forgot to charge it last night because last night was nuts. But we can get to that. So let's see here. Who do we have? Whoops. Go back to the chat, please. Where'd you go? No, I don't want to report us. There we go. Top chat. Live chat now. Behave. Okay. So let's see who we have here. Starry Girl, hello. Good to see you. Fill us in, please. How are things going? Are you still working on your plan to get out of your situation? Keep us updated, because we will ask you every time we see you, because we care. We just want to check in on that and see how things are going. Okay, let's see. Emily Chambers, hello, welcome. I'm not sure if we've seen you before. If any of you have changed your names, your YouTube moniker since subscribing to us, we remember you according to those, so please let us know if you've changed your name or if you want to be a non whatever, but that's how we remember you guys until we're told otherwise. Okay, so anyway, welcome. If we haven't seen you before, Blue Rose, hello, welcome. 420 Witch, we already said hey to you. Let's see here. Jocelyn Warnell, hello there, good to see you. Oh yeah, it is Beltane, isn't it? Huh? Totally forgot about that. Let's see here. Roses, you're here. For Jocelyn Warnell can hear us just fine. Excellent. Kaylee Rose, welcome. Glad to see you on the stream. Don't think we've seen you around before. Let's see, how many have we got here? 11. Okay, 420. Surgery went well. One wound is taking a bit longer to heal, but had a few days before TW was bleeding, but sorted out now. Okay, good. We're glad you're doing better on that, because we hadn't seen you around Instagram. So of course we've been busy as all get out, but we saw you hadn't posted in a while, so we're hoping you'd show up to the live stream so we could say hey and see how things are going. Okay, let's see. Ellie Kitsune. Hello, Ellie from the Candy Collective. Good to see you. Pia is here. Hello, welcome. Don't worry about your phone acting up. It's been a tech day. We've had to reboot this thing like 3 times. But like we said, it was our own fault because we forgot to charge it last night. So we've literally got it hooked up to the charger as we're going here. Seems like the charger is winning though, so we'll see. Okay, let's see here. Yeah, okay, Pia, hi all, stopping by as I can't sleep due to COVID. I'm sorry about that. I'm assuming that you've got it. Definitely self-care, rest, lots of water, because you can get dehydrated really easily. Hopefully you had your immunization, so it won't be as bad. We haven't gotten it ourselves, fortunately, because we stayed up on the immunization shots. But our wife had it, and I think one of our kids. I'm sorry, brain isn't clicking at the moment, so everybody's still kind of a little asleep. Like we said, a long day, but we'll get into that. Or night yesterday. It's been a long month. Dragons, hello, welcome. Okay, Stargirl saying, working on it still, that's what matters. Been going at a snail's pace. I swear it sucks when no one wants to hire us so we can get out of our current job. Yeah, we hear you. Little steps at a time, just keep working on it. Okay, the fact that you're continuing to keep rolling is the important thing. It's one step at a time, and a lot of us can't do that instantaneously. So yeah, just keep plugging away at it. It'll happen. Okay, let's see here. Oxymoron, hello, good to see you. Kaylee Rose, no, I'm new, but glad to be here. My name is pronounced Kylie. Okay, my bad, or our bad, Kylie. Well, thank you for that. Let's see here. DID Diary, hello, welcome. First live stream of yours they've been able to catch. Welcome. We'll go over the rules in a few minutes. We're gonna get people sorted in here for a few minutes since we do have a lot of new people on the channel lately. Let's see here. Who else do we have? Jocelyn Warnell. Ellie saying they've been good, took a test, and therapist basically diagnosed us. They're not official yet. Still the doubt and denial, but it's a lot less than before and more connected to how to feel who is who. Yeah, it comes. Give it time. But good for you for working on the diagnosis there. It's always nice to know, for sure. It's like, because that gives you something that you can literally, stick on the wall and say, hey, I'm diagnosed. It's another tool actually to fight against the denial. So yeah, keep pursuing that, and plus, it opens up, opportunities for, better treatment, or at least it does here. For us, we got when we got our diagnosis, we were put on as we got our SMI designation, which entitles us basically to health care going forward, where we'll always be able to have our meds and whatnot. So, I mean, it's a small thing, but at least it's there. So there are a few benefits that come with it. But yeah, good for you. Let's see here. Pia, okay, you had 3 shots. Pia, excellent. Good. Bad cold and a very bad cough. We'll be fine. Okay, but yeah, just take it seriously, because it can wipe you out real bad. Excuse us. Speaking of coughing, this be the verse. Hello, welcome. Hey folks, we hope everyone's day is going as smooth as possible. Ditto. Right back to you guys. Hope everything's going good in your parts of the world. For those of you who are in Europe right now with everything that's going on, or might even be in the Ukraine, or in that area, our thoughts and hopes go out to you guys. Please stay safe. I know things in the world right now are really unsettled, so just hang in there, do what you can to self-care, stay safe, and just wish there were more that we could do. But until the politicians worldwide decide to get their shit together and start acting rather than looking after their own self-interest, we won't get any farther into this, basically. But it's kind of up to all of us to keep the ball of freedom rolling, as it were. But yeah, the whole world is sliding backwards into autocracy and fascism yet again. It's like, oh gee, we didn't learn anything from World War II. Maybe we should stop the power-mad dictator from trying to seize most of Europe again. Anyway, that's enough about that, because that's hinging on one of the things that we don't talk about, because there's no good way to talk about politics. So we avoid it. Plus, it is an endemic to DID anyway. So let's see who else we have. Maldwin, hello, Maldwin. Sleepy Wave. Yeah, we're right there with you, boy. It's been a long month. Ellie saying school's almost over for the semester. We are 30 in a few months grads, trying to finally finish school after some deep depression right out of high school. Just 2 weeks of finals left. We're pulling for you. Hang tough. You're at the end there. Believe it or not, there is an end game. But we're also jealous, because we actually didn't get to go to college. We still very much like, excuse us, like to do that. But for all of you who are out there in the collegiate world, getting through, our hats off to you and support from us, because it's tough. We've done a lot of extracurricular studies and whatnot, and we were in community and trade college here, so we get the grind. We get the grind. Keep at it. Keep trying to improve yourself, because that's what it's all about. There is no goalpost in life, you know. It's you just keep on going. So yeah, good luck on that. Okay, looks like we've got about 14 in here. We'll go ahead and blather for a few more minutes before we go over the rules, since that doesn't seem to be a problem right now. It never really has been, but we will go over them later on. So we got 14 in the chat here. Feel free to say hello if you're in the chat. If you're just lurking, hello, welcome, lurkers. It's okay. You don't have to participate in the chat. Feel free to just listen to us drone on about whatever it is that we'll be droning on about today. Who knows? So, you know, just kick back, relax. Participation is encouraged, but not required. Never is. And on that excuse us, we're still kind of stuffed up. A lot of dust where we live, and it's been bad lately. So, and we lost our train of thought already. Let's see here. Good to have refreshers on the rules. Yeah. Yeah, we might as well just go over them now. We got about 16 people in the chat and some new folks. We'll repeat them later on if more people meander in. Not sure how many we're going to have today, being that we've gotten a sudden influx of subscribers and viewers from our Moon Knight series, which we can get into later on if you guys want. But yeah, basically these are the rules. First, let us explain to you. Hang on, big chat thing just popped up. Want to get school done so we can finally find a job that fits us, not retail. Good luck. And stop being a hassle to our boyfriend. Our therapy and meds is the biggest feeling of guilt I want to remove. Okay, we're going to stop right there. Ellie, don't feel guilty about your condition or having to deal with it. That is the last thing that you should feel guilty about. It wasn't your fault to begin with, and it's definitely not your fault now. And if your loved ones in your support system truly care about you, then take them at their word that they do that. You don't need to be heaping any more guilt or anything on top of your shoulders. We get it. We do, because it's ingrained. It's that knee-jerk reflex of, this is all my fault. I am imposing on another person, making their life inconvenient. My needs and desires and wants are not important, or at least not as important as yours. We get that, and that is a trauma response. So keep that in mind. So we picked up on that in your statement there. So we just kind of want to give you that heads up and that encouragement and emphasis that you shouldn't feel guilty about taking care of your mental health. Nobody should. It's if you don't take care of yourself first, you can't take care of anybody else effectively. So there's that. Our 2 cents and old guy opinion. Anyway. So, those who care don't matter. Those who matter don't care. Yeah, okay. A little story idea for you, Velveteen Rabbit. Let us make a note of that real quick, which is why we have our handy-dandy notebook, because we could not find our clipboard. It vanished someplace last week. Who knows? One of us probably was doing something and set it down someplace. So, little stories. Velveteen Rabbit. That's one from our time period. That and, let's see, The Hungry Hungry Caterpillar, The Giving Tree, all of Shel Silverstein's work from Where the Sidewalk Ends and whatnot. I'm being eaten by a boa constrictor. I don't know about you guys, the millennials and from that point on, but that was kind of like, we got exposed to that whether we liked it or not in the 70s and 80s, so kind of sticks with you. So let's see here. I'm just going to catch up on the chat here before we go over things. Let's see here. Guild has been sitting for around for participating in conversation, but yeah, don't worry about it, Kylie. It's fine. Our streams, like we're about to go over, are a little bit different than other streams. So when you're first here for the first time, you're not quite sure how to respond. Like, we'll go over it. So let's see here. Be the verse, totally agree. We also have the reflex of guilt as a trauma symptom and would feel guilty for our partner having to look after us so much. But he's insisted for years it's his honor, and we feel the same for anything we can do to support him. We're starting to believe it now, so we just wanted to say totally feel the guilt. Very much a mood. In our experience, it is inaccurate, and you have nothing to feel guilty about. Yeah, absolutely. That's dead on the nose. And just keep remembering the guilt is ingrained. That they've drilled it into you, the guilt, shame, blame cycle that goes around and around and around as they convince you that it was your fault and this needs to be done because, well, anyway, we all know where this goes and we cover it in our videos. So anybody wanting to learn all about that, go hit up our Learning to Love Again video. Warning, that's one of the more triggerful ones that we do. We go over the impact that sex and trauma has on the system and the difficulties that you may face. And we do cover the guilt, blame, shame cycle and take you through the whole, basically the framework of how your abusers work and what they did and why they did it to you and the psychology behind it. But it's a heavy video, so if you haven't checked that out, please do so. Also, for those of you who are our new viewers, be aware that our programming is a little bit different than other DID channels. Basically, we allow each alter it's an expressive medium for everybody. So if they choose to participate and make content, they can. If not, that's okay as well. But with data and those are basically his purview. I may do the announcing on the video, but it's all his research, and he researches stuff thoroughly and makes sure that we've got the most recent research for you guys. Obviously, things change as the psychiatric community is cluing in more and more. More hard science is being developed, like MRI studies showing exactly where the memories are imprinted on the brain, how it's imprinted on the brain. But watch out because we do cover very heavy subjects. So take those trigger warnings seriously. We don't place them lightly. We expect you guys to practice viewer discretion, but we will give you a heads up, but we are not afraid to delve into these things as our longtime viewers can attest. So please feel free to go back through our content. We've arranged it by playlist to make it easy for you. But yeah, it's there. So don't judge the channel off of just what we've been producing lately, but please go back through our catalog of content to check stuff out because particularly all of the factual stuff, each of the episodes basically builds on each other. We did them in a certain order for a certain reason to give you guys a better picture of how this will affect you later on, because it all comes back to the trauma and the stress response cycle. So with that long-winded explanation, let me check the chat here real quick to check up, and then we'll go over the rules, since I kind of got sidetracked. Okay, so let's see here. It's the stories, different vibes. Still talking about Velveteen Rabbit. We'll see if we can dig that up. Let's see. Little Stories Idea to Frederick by Leo Linoli. We just found it available in it. I'm not familiar with that one. We'll have to look it up. Let us make a note of that. Okay, let's see here. Where was that? Frederick. Leo Leonie. Okay, we will look that up for you, Oxymoron. Okay, let's see here. Is that the bull story? Oh, wait, I think I remember that. In the U.S., I think it's called Ferdinand instead of Frederick, if we're thinking about the same one there that Blue Rose is. Yeah, Ellie's saying that they're feeling that boyfriend has done so much for us and they haven't done enough to balance that feeling of being too much. You need to be stable and have a baseline first before you can reciprocate on that. So don't set that self-imposed limit of I need to reach this point in my healing by such and such a date so that I can give back. if they're with you because they love you and they want to support you, particularly if they are doing that. And this is one of the more frustrating things for trauma systems, is because of the way that we've been gaslit and manipulated and just the way that the trauma works, we don't trust people. And we're always constantly on that lookout, whether we like to or not, but we also feel that underlying need to put others before ourselves. So watch out for that. It's a double-edged sword. But when your loved one says, look, it's okay, I'm here to support you, let them do it. Because if you don't and you stop communicating and you keep in yourself and keep all that to yourself, you're just making it 10 times harder than it needs to be, and it will eventually come up to bite you in the ass. We nearly nearly lost our marriage for this being a part of it. So watch out for that. Take it seriously. Cut yourself some slack, guys. So let's see. Okay, no, it's about mice. Okay, not the one that I was thinking of. Oh, wait, we're thinking of the cartoon. That's right. Sorry. Let's see. Helped us see it as malware lately, like the feeling of guilt that creeps over us for everything. We tend to catch it now and remind ourselves it's just the guilt exec that's running and our mind. Yeah, that's a great way of putting it. I like that that comparison there. So yeah, excellent. Yeah, bowl one is Ferdinand. We know which one you're talking about, Blue Rose. Got that same thing. By the way, what is that thumbnail? Welcome, legendary 3D gamer. That thumbnail. They only give you like 3 seconds to set up a shot for the thumbnail, so we have to constantly take it over and over and over again. But that's actually Mr. Frog here with the expandable, slappy, tough to do this with one hand, slappy bracelets. So it's Mr. Tree Frog here, and he was grabbing hold of our breakfast, which we'll have to eat at some point in time. While we're on that note, Percival's tea. The trouble was is he was better. For years we drank just tea bag tea, and then he's like, no, we need proper tea. And so he knew the whole process without it was weird. So yeah, but we started making proper loose leaf tea in the proper fashion, and we have to admit it's like 1,000 times better. It's no wonder, like in all the movies, when the Americans offer to make tea for the Brits, they're all thanks, but no thanks. We finally get that. Yeah. So anyway, let's see here. So that's what it was, Legendary 3D. It's our little, we'll change it to our logo afterwards, but generally just as a placeholder, we generally just take something on our wall or a random object. But that's Slappy Bracelet Tree Frog. So okay, let's see. What about poetry or rhymes? I think it's called for the little stories. We may, Clover saying, we may start to branch out into their person. He's in charge of that, so really you kind of need to talk with Percival. But we've got a stack, or he's got a stack of, I think, about 6 or 7 little golden books and some offshoots that are, this is really, classic stuff, even dating back before us into the 50s. He finds these vintage little golden books and stories that we were familiar with, and it's like, oops, snag, we're going to eat that out of the bookstore as rapidly as we can. And so we'll go ahead and do those. And but eventually we'll probably run out, because we have to kind of filter through the various ones, because some of the little golden books from that time period are just not acceptable nowadays whatsoever. We're actually shocked at the amount of racism in some of the early ones. It's, yeah, some things don't age too well. So we kind of have to, and plus he's also watching for, possible trauma associations and things like that. So it's kind of like tiptoeing through a minefield. So we tend to choose the safer ones. But we're always welcome to suggestions on them, and I'll jot them down, but he's the one that has the ultimate say-so on that. So, but yeah, absolutely. Okay, so let's see here. We got about 20 people in here. Let me go ahead and mark our spot. Settle that as well. Yeah, listen to your boyfriend and his girlfriend. Or, yeah, the folks in your life there. Totally agree. Yes. Okay. Let's see here. 420, which Chris, I was in a children's program here in the UK when I was 8-ish, I think, and I found it on YouTube recently. Post that. We'd actually like to watch it. Hopefully you weren't hanging out with Jimmy Savile. We just watched a documentary on Netflix about that guy. We were familiar with him actually before that, but we didn't realize that it was as in-depth and creepy as it was. Anybody over there in the UK, you're going to know exactly what we're talking about right off the bat. For those of you who aren't familiar, he was a very famous celebrity, basically, where he would kind of like be a one-person Make-A-Wish Foundation type of thing, and but not for just kids. But he had a real dark side, and it turns out, yeah, guy was a pedophile. Pulled the wool over all of the UK's eyes for a very long time. Very long time, and it's just like, ugh. Anyway, enough about that. So yeah, okay, Maldwin. You're like, yeah, yeah, he was. Yeah, well, enough said about him. You guys, if you really want to, trigger warnings on this stuff. Obviously, it's on Netflix right now. It is a well done documentary, but yeah, it's icky. It was difficult for us to sit through. But not for the reasons that you'd think, because actually it's a two-parter, and it's not until the second part that they actually go into a lot of the allegations. But it was hard to sit through the first part knowing that this guy was such a monster, and they're going over what he did and blah, 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 blah. Obviously, yeah, you have to fill in the history behind it, but it was just, we're sitting there watching knowing what this guy did, and it's just, ugh. You get that oily feeling on your skin, and you just want to shrug your shoulders. Anyway, moving on from that, but yeah, 420 Witch, we'd totally be interested in seeing that. So if you can post that or post a link, we'd love to check that out. This be the verses, addicted to drinking tea, but you drink regular tea bag, and you made me curious about how much better proper loose leaf tea is. Yes, and it is convenient, but it kind of becomes a little morning ritual to help start your days. I don't know about you guys, but we've always been very even before we knew that we were a system, we were very set. We had to do everything in a certain way, in a certain order. Otherwise, our whole day would be just. And now, of course, we realize why. But yeah, loose leaf tea, vastly, vastly superior to tea bags. What we call tea here in the U.S. is a pale imitation. Percival's right? Yes, I know. He's gloating. So. Okay, here. So yeah, try it. This be the verse. It's. We were skeptical at first, but let's see. Maldwin's saying Yorkshire Gold is the best teabag tea. Black tea, our favorite. We drank stuff. Crap. Let's see. It's holistic tea. Okay, no, not that creepy. It was a program called Play Days, but yes, I'll send the link on Instagram. Excellent. Okay, good. Yeah. All right, we've got about 19, 20 people in the chat, and we're basically pretty well caught up on the chat. So let's go ahead and go over the rules. As we've stated, guys, our programming on the channel, and particularly during the live streams, is a little bit different. Rather than this being all about us, although we're always happy to answer any questions that you had, so feel free to ask them, and we do mean any questions that you have. If we're not comfortable answering them, we will go ahead and we'll let you know just flat out. Sorry, we're not going to answer that or give you the reasons why. But as our longtime viewers can attest, we are not afraid to get into the nitty gritty and discuss things like trauma. So if you do have anything that you want to ask, you're curious about, feel free to drop it in the chat. But if it's going to be a real heavy subject or something, throw a TW, a trigger warning, on the front of it just for our viewers. We're not particularly touchy-squeamy, but our audience is vast, and we all have different levels of trauma. So just be considerate with that. So that's how it works. Basically, we think of it as the idea of a Greek forum, which is where everybody has a piece of the puzzle. We all come together and talk about things, and everybody shares their experience on it. So don't be afraid to chat amongst yourselves. In the chat, we actually encourage that because we started the channel to give back to the community rather than just make it about us. And that's basically the way that it works. So here are the hard and fast rules. And our longtime viewers, say them with us now, because you've got them memorized by now. Rule number 1, you have the right to your opinion. Rule number 2, you have the right to state your opinion. Rule number 3, you do not have the right to abuse other people with your opinion. don't troll, don't post links to porn, don't start crap, don't talk about politics. Sex is okay because it's directly related to trauma, but, let's keep it within that. Other than that, those are basically the rules. We have mods, hello, Roses, and a few others that have great big ban hammers, and they have our permission to immediately ban anybody who is basically causing crap. So trolls don't apply, Russian spam bots don't apply, just don't behave yourselves, mind your P's and Q's, and act like the young ladies and gentlemen that we know that you are, or maybe not so old as the case goes. Although our analytics show that most of our audience is between 18 to 28, female, from the United States and the UK. So that's it, basically. We're pretty relaxed. We haven't had anybody give us any problem, but don't push it, because we've been on the internet for a very, very, very long time, and we know all the tricks, we know all the things. Don't tell us to hit Control F4 to clear the screen, because we're just going to go bye-bye and move right along. So that's it. Those are the rules. Actually, YouTube has just, we found out, released a feature to where the rules will pop up before you're allowed to live chat, and you have to go, okay, I agree, blah, 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 which basically means nothing. You can just click through it, but that's the way it works. So don't cause crap. That's basically it. Just be polite. So with that, we'll get back to the chat log. So keep those things in mind, and feel free to hit us with any questions you may have. Otherwise, we'll just go through the chat like we normally do. Okay, let's see here. Yes, Roses flexes her hammer. Yes, absolutely. Let's see. Earl Grey all the way. Yes, tea. Earl Grey hot. We were one of those that when Star Trek came out, and that Next Generation Captain Picard started us drinking Earl Grey tea, and for literally decades that's what we would drink. But we liked ours heavily sugared. Not so much anymore. Somebody, or we as a whole, have decided that we are eating way too much processed sugar in our diet, and we're trying to move away from that into more healthy alternatives, although we despise Splenda and all those. That's just ugh. So let's see what we have to say here. Okay, let's see here. Talking about tea still. That's good. Let's see. Except Netflix and Hammer. Love it. Viking much, Roses. Yeah. Blue Rose says, laugh out loud. One of us really likes to say the rules with you. Yeah, that's, I know you guys listen to them over and over again every month. But also on that, for you new folks, we try to live stream on the last Saturday of each month. We'll give you a heads up about a week before, like we did. But generally, as a general rule of thumb, we do our end of the month live streams on the last Saturday of each month at around 1 p.m. Mountain Standard Time, which has proven to be a kind of acceptable thing between our U.S.-based and our foreign-based. We don't want you guys staying up all night. We do thank you folks who choose to do so, obviously. You don't have to go get some sleep, or just put us on in the background. We've been told that our voices put many people to sleep before, in a good way, not in a boredom way. We hope. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, Ellie's saying, I think their biggest main issue is that we did not go through enough to have this disorder, assuming you're talking about. The only trauma we see, those are your key words there, that we see is emotional and neglect, nothing physical or sexual. A lot of controlling our life, though. Guess what? Neglect is physical. Emotional neglect is physical. Because it's your body. Everything that you perceive, all of your perceptions, all of the input, it's all contained within the meat suit here. It's not external, it's internal. So don't devalue the amount or type of trauma that you've had. Okay, here's the way that DID works according to the theory of structural dissociation, which is the best current theory out there. Notice we said theory. As we stated before in a lot of our videos, and it's just a fact. DID really has not been taken seriously until now, right around now, and there's still a lot of psychiatric people there who still have the stigma that came along with multiple personality disorder, which is what it used to be called. But the science is still very much evolving. Things will change. We use the theory of structural dissociation because it just makes the most sense and it's got the most hard science behind it at this point. So don't devalue what trauma you have. The only requirement, so you can actually look at the DSM-5 online if you want. I forget what the European version of that is, but it just simply says that it needs to be repeated, sustained trauma over the course of time of an intense nature between the ages of birth, basically, to the age 8, 9, 10. Generally, 9 is about the cutoff point. Because that's the point when the ego states congeal and form one personality, or at least in NTs, that's what happens. We're not going to go into details on it. Again, that's our Learning to Love Again video. We go into a great amount of detail in the theory of structural, or wait, no, that's actually in our Meet the, or Who in the Hell Are You People, Alters and All About Them, sorry. 2 different videos, they kind of cover the same thing, but we go over the theory of structural dissociation in more detail there. And but it doesn't necessarily have to be physical or sexual abuse to cause DID. It can be prolonged emotional abuse, just living in a war zone or something where your needs have been deprived during that span of time. It's not always sexual or physical abuse, but it often is. Emotional is enough to do it. Being in a war zone, any seriously impacting traumatic event that happens to you during that time frame that expands over a long period of time is enough to do it. Now, obviously, the criteria breaks down from there. You have to have, at least 2 distinct separate personalities, and the time loss, and there's a whole lot of other things that go into it, and their definitions are expanding as they get more information and more studies and more scientific data comes in on how the brain works, how the memories are sectioned away. But we're at the point now where there is more than enough medical proof out there. They need larger studies to get a more accurate picture of how things do go on. But there's enough there to say, hey, yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah, sorry, notification popped up. So yeah, keep in mind it doesn't have to be physical, it doesn't have to be sexual, but it often is, because emotional abuse, sexual abuse, and physical abuse do all go together hand in hand. And for those of you who were sexually abused but were not like beaten violently, weren't physically abused, guess what? You were physically abused, because sex is a physical act, sexual abuse is a physical act. It is physical abuse, and this is something that we our therapist helped us suss out for ourselves, and it's kind of a misnomer because you don't even think about it. You tend to delineate them in terms of, okay, this is emotional abuse, this is physical abuse, this is sexual abuse, and you tend to forget in that categorization that they bleed into each other often, and then it's never just clear cut enough to say, I mean, we're fairly clear cut with what happened to us. We're one of those extreme examples, as it were, but we don't believe in comparative trauma. Oh, our trauma was so much worse than your trauma is, which a lot of people can think. Trauma is trauma. It in the end, and this was something that we did not understand at first with our therapist, because when you go in and you start therapy and this box is unlocked and all this stuff starts coming out, you have been missing chunks of your life. For your entire life, there are these big blank holes, and all of a sudden the box starts unlocking, and the natural tendency is to want to know every single last detail of what happened to you. And in some ways, we still feel that is important to fill those things in. But that's actually not the real goal of therapy. So we wanted to go in order with each alt and whatnot, and our therapist was saying, the details really don't matter in the end. And we did not get this for quite a while, but in the end, it's just another trauma. It's the actual impact of it and how it leads to the cascade effect, rather than each nitty-gritty detail of everything that was done to you. Does that matter? Yes. Is it necessary to get therapy and to continue along? No. And it all depends upon your level of digging that you want to do. Data being data, we have about a 90% picture and clear events and timeline and everything. I mean, he broke it down to the nth degree because that's what he does. But because he was looking for proof. Did this actually happen? What happened to us? When did this happen? Why are we missing all of our 5th grade pictures? Why are we missing all of our 3rd grade pictures? All of these unexplained little things in our lives that we never put two and two together came to light. So don't limit the impact of your types of abuse. Don't look at us and go, oh my God, they were physically and sexually abused and this is so terrible. Whereas my mom just yelled at me incessantly and, called me this and that and the other thing, but, never actually really laid a hand on me. It doesn't matter. The impact on the child of the trauma is still the same. It's just a degree of severity, but everybody's got the trauma. Trauma is trauma. If you're abused, you are abused. All right, so there's our long ass rant on that. We've seen a lot of comments pop up. We're going to come back to, we'll catch up here and see where we're going. So, yeah. So, yeah, Ellie, cut yourself some slack, okay? Let's see. Scrolling back. So, yeah. Pepsi, Clover, yes. Mimi, Pepsi. Remember the Pepsi generation? Yeah, absolutely. We're trying to wean ourselves off of that because it's like gut and health. We don't want to develop diabetes on top of everything else. So yeah, Picard is brilliant. That is all. We're not going to get into the Star Trek review, but we have been watching Picard. It was worth it just simply to watch Q bitch slap Picard right across the face. Holy crap, that was a jaw drop moment. Season 1 was like, yeah. Season 2 has picked it up pretty well. We'll see where they go in Season 3. They're starting to drift more into some of the fan service territory, but it's been good enough to watch. Although we already think we know what's going to happen in the season finale here. Anyway, enough about Picard right now. Earl Grey tastes like soap, at least according to my system mates. Now you see, yeah, we have folks who don't like that. Rosemary, she's a coffee girl. Tea is like, God, do we have to drink this stuff again? So yes, let's see. Roses is going on about sweetener alternatives. Hello, Christina Costa. Good to see you. Welcome to the stream, or back to the stream. Let's see here. This be the verse is saying, think it's really easy to review our experiences and minimize the trauma that's there because we're desensitized and it's normal looking to us. Also, maybe we've been dismissed a lot in our opinion. Yeah, both valid points. Absolutely. Let's see here. And yes, okay, Christina is saying, yes, your voice is quite soothing. Thank you. We've had professional voice work and we've, been in theater before. So we actually took professional voice actor and voiceover work, but we've always, had a good talent and, a good ear for that. And now we wonder, it's like probably because we've had everybody kicking around in the head. So maybe it makes it easier, but yeah. This be the verse is backing up what we were saying. Trauma is absolutely valid. Neglect is absolutely devastating trauma. Yeah, absolutely. People just tend to focus in on the sexual and physical abuse, and the picture is so much larger than that. Okay, so yeah, you guys are just giving Ellie support. You see, guys, you're new people. This is what we like, and this is what we encourage, because we've all got a piece of the puzzle, and we can all support each other because our experiences vary. So don't be afraid to speak up if you've got something salient to say. Okay, yeah, thank you, ICD, oxymoron. I knew that. Just the acronyms weren't sticking. Let's see here. Partial DOD because okay, we're catching up here. Rosa is saying, think we need to have more of a conversation on what intense means in this context. Yeah, because you guys we're catching up, so you've probably already covered it. Yeah, Rosa is saying because human resiliency is personal and unique. What one person goes through with nothing more than an unpleasant memory, others go through and end up with intense trauma. Yeah, exactly. P is saying trauma doesn't lie, rather. Yes, absolutely. For you new viewers who might be newly diagnosed or might be struggling with denial, we did a 3-part series called Denying DID, Part 1, Part 2, and Part 3. The real salient and the meat of the whole thing is in Episode 2, Trauma Doesn't Lie. Basically we provide you with a hard and fast, a wall that you can put your head up against and go, Yeah, okay, really can't deny this with these facts in my brain. We're not going to go into it in detail, but also for you new folks, generally on our three-part or multiple-part series, we will first, for the first episode, we will give you a clip of recordings that we made when we were freshly diagnosed back in 2019, either just before or just after in that time period. We would just, in order to try to get some of our thoughts out and settle down late at night, because we're chronic insomniacs, after everybody was in bed and the house was quiet, we, or I, whoever it was, just decided to record our thoughts for whatever reason, personal journaling or something. Maybe our therapist recommended it. And now we're glad that we did, because going back and reviewing them, we're finding that we were displaying a lot of behaviors and symptoms that all tie back into this. So we'll generally show you a piece of footage that is germane to the point that we'll be making in episode 2, because it's just 99.9% of the time, a picture is worth 1,000 words. It's a lot easier to show you what something looks like rather than go, this is this, and you'll feel this way, and blah, 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 blah. It's much easier to show, and it can be kind of gut-wrenching. This is where we kind of go into the trauma, the trigger warning territories. But anyway, Trauma Doesn't Lie, look that up, Denying DID Part 2. It's helped a lot of systems. That train of thought certainly helped us. So again, poke around our back catalog of content, because we've provided a lot of information in the 2 years that 3 years almost that we've been running the channel. Okay, so back to the chat here. So yeah, Pia, Trauma Doesn't Lie, absolutely. Let's see. Okay, Stargirl saying there's a question I'd like to ask. It involves inner world conflict and trying to help alters and healing. Is that okay? Won't go into big detail. Go ahead. Sorry, you pop it out. By this time, you probably already have, though. We're playing catch up again here. 420 saying, to be honest, Chris, a lot of your videos even help me make sense of the possible BPD docs say I have. Thank you. We appreciate that compliment. That's actually because BPD and what it all falls along the theory of structural dissociation. There's the first level with CPTSD, BPD. Underneath that, we've got the CPTSD. On the secondary level, OSDD. 1A, 1B. I think they might have a 1C now. We're not sure. Data hasn't looked at that literature in a little while here. And then underneath that, you've got DID on the bottom level. So yeah, absolutely. Our content we try to make our content speak to everybody along that scale, because really it's only a differentiation of how the trauma impacted the child and whether or not those ego states were allowed to form properly. And it can get a little confusing, because in the case of, say, for example, PTSD and CPTSD, those can easily be developed after childhood. Childhood is that hard limit is just specifically dealing with DID because of the way that the brain works. So if you're a teenager, yeah, you can absolutely get OSDD. That can be developed. CPTSD, which is complex PTSD. So keep that in mind. Dr. Bessel van der Kolk and his contemporaries in the early 80s were basically the ones that worked with the Vietnam veterans and helped to identify what was going on there, PTSD and CPTSD. And obviously these guys are adults who are suffering from the same effects. So it's a degree of severity of the trauma and the way that the brain works and when the trauma occurred. So we do try to have it speak to everyone. We're glad that that's getting across and helping you guys. So yay, thank you very much for that. Massive impact too. It's just so nuanced and varied because brains and people are. Yeah, absolutely. Which is it makes it difficult for NTs who are willing and trying to wrap their head around DID and these dissociative conditions, because a lot of the times there are no hard and fast things that you can, other than the common symptoms, that you can throw a dart at and say this applies to everybody. So there's a lot of inconsistencies, and naturally the NTs and of course those in the Western science who are stuck in the dogma, they just tend to see it and just gloss over it. So keep that in mind. We're rambling again here. Okay, Maldwin saying that they need to get some sleep. Go, Maldwin. You're probably already asleep by this time. Thank you for stopping in. Go get some sleep. Kate, outed themselves in therapy by accident. Now they're scared and trying to deal with the fallout. This is why I don't tell people you're either crazy or faking. We get where you're coming from, Kate, but don't assume that your therapist is going to react a certain way until they actually do so. This again is tied in with the trauma. It's called predictive patterning, and this is what data does very, very well, because he does it to keep us out of danger. Everything, every fact, every nuance of everyone around us all goes into his master program, as it were, and the facts fit together. But we get tripped up on this sometimes, because sometimes the observations are made off of assumptions that are based off of the trauma. This abuser acted this way, so everybody else is going to act that. Obviously, we're drawing an extreme example, but the gist of it is until your therapist actually comes out and says, well, I don't believe in DID because of X or whatnot, and you're all, okay, thank you very much for telling us that. We're going to go ahead and look for another therapist now. We're still going to run into that, but don't assume, I guess is what we're saying, because it makes an ass out of you and me, and we lack proper perspective. Systems, we lack proper perspectives because we're locked into it and we can't see outside of that box, whereas they can. So I hope you get what we're trying to say here. It's kind of one of those little fudgy points. Let's see, catching up. Closest to physical would be dragged off the couch and forced, I guess, to wrestle with stepdad, even though I didn't like it. Supposed to be tough boy, but had grown up soft emotions. Yeah, boy, do we get that. Ours made us run 2 miles every afternoon for the better part of 3 weeks because we were a sissy boy, but rather than run along with us, he just simply drove in the car alongside of us and screamed encouragement at us. So yeah, we get you there. And but keep in mind, at the barest definition, okay, and this is just purely us, we're not professionals, but it seems logical. If your abuse contained a physical component, i.e. being forced to wrestle against your will, if it's against your will, that's abuse. And if there's a physical component to it, that's physical abuse. No, it's not black eye and broken arm, at least we hope not, but it's still against your will and against your desire, and it had a physical component, ergo quid pro quo. Again, that's just us. Okay, so, but yeah, to that, it sounds similar to some of the stuff that we were enforced to endure, and we're going to count it as abuse, so go ahead and you do it too. If it impacts you, you have a right to it. Okay, let's see here. Lindsay, hello, welcome. Finally able to catch a live stream. You're late, but you're here. No, it's no big deal. We generally run about 2 to 3 hours on our streams anyway, so don't worry about it. Let's see, Ellie saying want to dig, but support system as well as the other alters. Okay, yes, Ellie, we're going to stop you right there. Only the therapist can pull at things, don't do alone. Yes, don't dig, guys, don't dig. Don't dig into the trauma. It's going to, and we know that the urge to, this is what we were talking about before, the urge to know everything. You feel like portions of your life have been stolen from you, and that's absolutely correct. They have, and you want to know what happened. It's systems need to have a stable base underneath them, and part of that is knowing what the hell happened to you. You've been blind to this your entire life, and you want to push. You want to know everything all at once, but trust us, because we had to learn this the hard way. The trauma will come out on its own when it's ready to. Your amygdala is still doing that job and saying, okay, we can or we cannot deal with this. But once the lid is off, those worms are going to crawl out of the can all on their own. You don't need to go digging, because it will come up. And if you do push, then it can have very serious physical consequences. For example, the TITH headaches. Transitional interpersonality thunderclap headaches. These are caused by the vascular or blood pressure changes in your brain when you are under duress, and particularly when you're switching or having a flashback. Your brain blood vessels are literally going and swelling and putting pressure. And if you don't stop, there is a reason that your body is telling you to stop. And with blood pressure changes, any of you in the medical community or with experience, you don't play around with these things. There's a reason why hypertension is a killer, okay? There is a direct risk that you can pop a blood vessel and end up with, Swiss cheese for brains, even worse than we already have. So don't push the trauma, and don't push past the warning signs. Your body, believe it or not, and your brain does know what's best. But we do agree that your therapist or somebody that is qualified, particularly if you're digging into the heavier trauma where you might trigger a flashback, you need somebody who is qualified to support you through that. Don't try to do it on your own. Don't, because we lack that proper perspective and that proper training in order to do that. We think that we know everything about ourselves and we're completely tuned in. Guess what? We don't. We're vulnerable. We don't have the full picture. If you have a good therapist, trust them. Trust their expertise. If you have a shitty therapist that doesn't connect at all or doesn't believe you or what you're saying, go find a new one. They're like, cars. You need to find one that's comfortable and will take you where you're going. So, end of rant on that. We're going to get back to the chat. Hope that all makes sense. Okay, so yeah, don't dig. Don't dig, Ellie. Yeah, everybody's literally saying just that stuff. Hello, Christian Instructor here for a few minutes before I have to run out. Everybody's doing well. Catch up on the stream later tonight. Okay, feel free to. Thank you for popping in to say hello. Go do what you need to do. Self-care, drink water. That's a Pia saying, funny, I thought you might have had voice training at shows. Yeah, it's we were always, one of the things that our egg donor, how far do we go into this? This is tied in with our trauma. And this is where John and Jack come from. What's the easiest way to explain this? We were made into the proper little showpiece. Be seen, not heard, but be able to perform on command so that mommy can look good in amongst her friends, which ran the gamut from everything from music anecdotes to being able to play the piano. Yes, we play. Vocal singing, things basically that she pushed us into. And now in that classic, your abuser can actually bring some good things into your life. She introduced us to the arts. She introduced us to classical music. She introduced us to playing the piano and things that actually have proven to be of positive influence. So, and this is where it can be really tough dealing with your abusers because you'll get that swing, swang back and forth. Yeah, so that's we were groomed in more ways than one to be the perfect little companion and bright, shiny, good boy for mommy to show off. Come show my friends what you can do so that, I can look good because I've got, such a talented, smart son. That's toxic, really toxic. So anyway. Yeah. So yeah, we do have the arts and the theater and whatnot behind us. So yeah, natural talent. Okay, Dragon's saying you were sexually abused, and we think, and we still think we haven't been through enough trauma. We must be faking. Trauma is trauma. Yes, it is. Dragons, if you haven't seen the Trauma Doesn't Lie under Denying DID, go watch that because it may help you. We needed that hard wall ourselves because otherwise the denial and the self-doubt is really prevalent. They drill it into your heads. Gaslighting is a thing, boys and girls. Manipulation is a thing. They've been at you from square one. You never had a chance. So, yeah, be aware of that. But yeah, if you've been sexually abused and it's within that time frame, again, this is the main thing with DID. It has to happen repeatedly before the age of 9 to 10. It's just because past then the brain is already formed. So there. Carolyn D, welcome. Glad that you could make the stream. We recognize you have no particular questions. We'll just be lurking for a bit. That's fine. You don't have to. If you have something germane, pitch in. If you have a question for us, feel free to ask, and we will answer just about anything. If we're not comfortable, we'll let you know. But we're pretty hardcore. So, okay, let's see here. Dragon's Mood, welcome Carolyn D. Lurk away, absolutely. Ellie is saying they're currently reading Faces of Denial and it ties to sexually abused and the host coming to terms with it, as well as proving it to be real. Yeah. Star Girls, okay, now we're coming to it. Says, okay, trigger warning. I think we have 3 alters who have been troublemakers inside. They're in timeout, so to speak. How can we help them learn not to make trouble again? We're sure that you've already had lots of replies from the audience. We're just going to give you a brief bit of advice from us. Generally, when alters are kicking up and making trouble, it's because they feel A, that they haven't been heard, or B, this has been their role in the system, but up to this point. And we ran across this and kind of it broadsided us, and particularly with Bootstraps, because he's responsible for coming out and doing all the unpleasant shit that if the plumbing breaks, that's a Bootstraps job. If something needs to be done that requires fix it or something like that, that's a Bootstraps job. And it never occurred to us that he would actually want to come out and spend time just doing things, watching a movie or something. It never even crossed our horizon of awareness. And he's been very angry. He's been the main source of conflict for a lot of stuff that's happened in amongst the family members here, particularly our kids, because he's just he's a dick, or can be, and yet he has this weird sweet side to him as well. But it wasn't until he actually asked our wife to ask us through her under a moment of extreme duress. Guy picks a weird time to have a conversation, that he wanted some time out. And since we've begun addressing his needs and communicating with him directly in that manner. And it's actually funny because being given the choice to do something now, he's like, now I actually have to think about it. It's like it's a weird little psychological thing. So we have run across this directly with him, with a couple of other alters. They just want to be heard. They want to have their say. They want to be given the opportunity to do what they want to do. And generally, we found that if you sit down with them and go, okay, hey, what do you want to do? You're as valid as the rest of us. You're obviously not happy. Let us know what it is that you want. What are your needs? And I don't know for every system, but with us, it's kind of like you're not supposed to ask me that. I'm comfortable in being mad about this. And now you're asking me what I want to do? I don't know. It puts them in that, and you may find that actually some of your persecutors and whatnot will all of a sudden start to shift, because for the first time, they're being paid attention to. They're being recognized as an individual with their own wants and needs, and the rest of the system is going, okay, hey, we hear you. What do you want? Let's see how we can work this in. So again, it comes back to communication. So hopefully that's our personal experience. Let's see what the others have been saying. Right off the bat, conversation, where they're coming from, what needs aren't being met. We should just let you guys talk amongst yourselves. Vince is giving them exactly the same device. Dragon, CPTSD sucks. Yes, it does. Yes, it does. Behaviors are communications. Absolutely. We're going to take a sec here. Keep talking amongst yourselves, guys, but I know we're behind on the chat log, so we're going to try to catch up. Personal diagnose, treat. Okay, this be the verse where we're going to... You made an interesting comment here. I've tried to keep people inside because it looked safer for them to be locked away inside. The trio will have a protective logic in what they were doing, I reckon. How to put this? And this is all a matter of mental semantics, understand, and it's going to vary from system to system. As long as they feel that they are being locked away, that's not going to help. Like we were just saying, they want their voices to be heard. And if you follow that mindset of, oh, I'm locking you away and protecting you for your own good, you're denying them that opportunity the same way that you were denied that opportunity. You may think that this is for the protection of the system or whatnot. And in some cases, yeah, absolutely. With the more extreme alters, with the self-harming behaviors, this may necessarily be a thing. But try to be gentler with yourselves and give them that opportunity that you were never given. And some of them will try to test you, particularly if these are littles that we're talking about, or tweens. Because, and this is just basic child psychology, and we feel that we can kind of speak to this, having 4 kids and being 53 years old and being on the tail end of it now. Reverse psychology is a thing. The more that you tell your child or something that, don't do this or don't do that, the more that they're going to want to do it. The more you try to control them, the more they're going to start to chafe against you. So it's a delicate dance between allowing them the freedom that they need in order to become their own person and your expectations of them. And particularly as they start to get older, you have to let go of that. You have to let go of that feeling of wanting to be in control and to micromanage and everything, and let them develop their own personality, let their freak flag fly, as it were, to just be themselves, even if and especially if it doesn't jibe with your viewpoint and your viewpoint of them. Every parent has certain ideas that they'd like for their child. Oh, she's so smart, she could, grow up to become a CEO or a doctor or any other insert honorable profession here. But that may not be what they're into. They may be into something completely different, and it's just simply never occurred to you because you have your own wall of perceptions up between you and the other person. And this is something that we've learned to our detriment. We're not all touchy-clingy, helicopter parenty, you must do this, you must do that. But some of that has come across from time to time, and we have blurred lines, just simply because of that lack of perspective. So with your alters, particularly the younger ones, tend to think of it in that way. You need to allow them room to express themselves, and they may buck against you. They may test it. We're bringing it back around here, we promise. Consistency is the most important thing when you're raising kids or dealing with your internal alters. They are going to test you. They are going to push those limits because, and this is where the weird psychology comes into play, because it will make them feel more comfortable, and they will grow better and be more inside of themselves if they know what your lines are, and the fact that you consistently stick to them. When you give a little bit here and a little bit there, they're going to take more. It's just a natural thing. And then, of course, you can run into narcissists who take it to the nth degree and will use it to start to manipulate you. But consistency is key. Lay out the ground rules, as it were, and make sure to get their input on laying them out. Make them feel part of the conversation. And you'll find that a lot of that intersystem stuff will start to level out as they start to feel validated and more valid in the system, and realize that, okay, the rest of you guys, the ANPs, or if you have a gatekeeper like Data, are going to keep those rules in place, and that there will be consequences, as it were. Although there's really not much you can do, like with a child, you can send them to their room for timeout or something. Insert your system solution here, but consistency and communication are key. So that lock them away thing for their own good is kind of a twisted, toxic little loop. Anyway, that's just our thoughts on it. So back to the chat here. Let's see. So Stargirl, you want time areas? Okay, yeah. Blue Rose is literally saying just exactly the same thing. Let's see. Yes, try to meet those needs in healthy ways. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, Stargirl saying the trio said something like, "You were never meant to know about us, so we're going to stop all of it. You in this is our host." They're afraid. That's a fear statement. Flat out. That's we're afraid. We like the things the way they were. We had this nice, comfortable little rut that we've been existing in, and now here you come wanting to give us freedom and a say in the system and everything, and our own voice, and we can't handle that. So yeah, it's a natural reaction. Remember, these are individuals in your head. These are not you. I mean, they are, but they're not. So you have to be prepared to deal with them on that level. We're used to thinking of ourselves, so everything's inside of one body. This is just part of me. It's like, therefore, if I can deny myself, you can too. Wrong. But again, the thing that we found helps to deal with these things most is just communication, giving them that voice. So yeah. Anyway, back to this, because they've already told you all this anyway. Let's see, Lindsay saying, at the Infinity System, I'm looking into how my own trauma has impacted me, and I think DID could be essential to knowing more about other trauma disorders. Just wanted to say thank you. Your channel helps. Thank you, Lindsay, Lindsay, for the compliment. We're glad that it is helping. Keep in mind, guys, we are not experts. We are patients, and we have our ups and downs. There's a lot of stuff that you see, or rather don't see, going on behind the scenes, just simply because some of the stuff we won't show. That's just not who we are. We're not here to exploit things. We're not here to exploit our condition or your condition. We're just here to basically give you the facts that we can discover and that we've worked through with our experience as an older system. And I know that we do have a unique viewpoint on that, particularly because we spent 48 years of our life thinking that we were one individual. And that realization was a shock, that we're in fact multiples. So a lot of ours has been untangling who has been doing what all along and giving them proper credit for that, and trying to work with the inner systems, the other members of it. So, but thank you. We're glad that that some of you guys are finding value in the content. We do try to keep it as scientifically accurate as we possibly can. That's data, and all of our stuff in those heavier episodes, just look in the description. He's generally got a link to the PDF or whatever the heck it was that he found for it, so that we're not just blathering. Okay, so Ellie's saying, don't understand how we're just now finding and dealing with alters just now and have no memory of alters being around in childhood or even early adulthood. Of course you're not going to have memories of them being around. That's what they're for, is to take and section those experiences and those times they're away. That's what they're for. Of course you're not going to be aware of them. And the number of alters will change. This is why some systems can have 200 alters and some can just have 2 or 3. Each case is individual. Each trauma is individual. Each brain is individual. So don't push yourself trying to look for an artificial goalpost based off of somebody else's experiences. So yeah, we just wanted to point that out. Sounds like the oh no, deny everything, abort, self-destruct reaction. Yeah, exactly. Okay, yeah, Kate, their therapist seems to be evaluating you constantly like you're going to break. Yes, they are, because they want to help you. She gives breathing, meditation, and muscle relaxing videos. I think she believes we're just stressed and overwhelmed. No. Okay, you are assuming what your therapist is thinking and why they're doing it. Okay, we have learned this firsthand. The first thing that any good therapist is going to do is to give you the tools to attempt to manage your condition. This is why we had 2 therapists initially. Our first therapist gave us the tools that we needed. Mindfulness, how to redirect, things like that. Actually, a lot of these things that we had actually already read or looked up or already knew how to do ourselves. It's like one of the funnier things was when she brought in some yarn and a couple of crochet hooks, and she's like, I can teach you how to do this, and you don't have to make anything fancy. And by the time that she got done explaining, we had already done a chain 3 foot long and started on the second layer, of making a scarf. And she looks over and she's like, okay, but that's what your therapist is doing. They're looking to identify those areas where you're going to need to work, where you don't have the tools. And that is the very first thing that they're going to try to do, is they are going to watch you, they are going to assess your state, see where you're at, and give you the tools that you need in order to deal with the heavier stuff later. You got to have that as firm a foundation underneath you as you possibly can before you start to dig into this trauma, because it will grab you by the neck and shake you like a rag doll. And you need to be able to have the DBT and the CBT already in place, to where you can go, okay, I'm starting to get really overwhelmed. We need to take a few deep breaths and center. We're on the edge of a flashback. What are we hearing in the room? What am I feeling? I'm feeling the carpet underneath my bare feet. I can hear the clock ticking. All of these things are meant to bring you back into yourself, to try to recenter you as much as possible. And act as the tools. They're trying to give you, I don't want to say weapons, but things that you can use, and the things that are necessary before they can actually dig into the trauma that you tend to want to just leap into like a a nasty swimming pool that's sat there for like a year and a half and it's got all that nasty scum on the surface. So that's the first thing that any good therapist is going to do, is to assess you, and that's going to be constant because they have to change. And this is one of the things that we learned with our therapist, is we were expecting the 12-step program, padded room type thing. Let's talk about your feelings. Tell us about your mother. Well, actually, we ended up doing that anyway because trauma. But it's not the way that therapy works. So, and always feel free to ask your therapist. They love those penetrating, insightful questions. Okay, you're having me do this. Why are you having me do this? Please explain to me how this is going to help me. Be upfront about your care. Just don't blithely accept whatever that is. Find out why they're doing it and what the purpose is behind it. And this will both facilitate better communication between you and your therapist, but also enable you to more readily accept the tools that they're giving you. And all the tools are not the same. What works for one system is not going to work for another. There are commonalities, obviously. For example, something that helps us a lot is Qigong, or, well, it's kind of like Tai Chi, but it's more focused on the breath. And Bessel van der Kolk, who we have mentioned before in our videos, who wrote The Body Keeps the Score, which, if you can get through it, it's pretty dry, is basically a Bible of, okay, here's why trauma forms and here's how to deal with it. He recommends yoga or breath body movements because it helps to keep us, we get dysregulated in and of ourselves, and we're out of contact with our body. And one of the first things that we need to do is to remember that all of this is inside of our body, inside of ourselves. And with the breath body movements, it quiets the mind and it brings you back into yourself. And at first we were kind of like skeptical, and then it's like, for example, last night, we haven't gotten into what happened to us this last week yet, but we needed the Qigong. We were spinning out and could not stop ourselves. And so it's like, okay, we've got this tool. We need to use our tools. They're there for a purpose. So we did that, and it helped some to recenter and settle us. They're not going to be foolproof things, so you may have to try one more than another. So that's why your therapist is doing that, and yeah, you're picking up on that, and you're absolutely right. So enough on that. But no, she doesn't just believe that you're stressed and overwhelmed. You are stressed and overwhelmed, and she can see that, but what she's looking for, or they're looking for, are the underlying causes for that, and they're giving you the tools that you're going to need before they can rip that Band-Aid off and do any substantial work, because otherwise they're just going to overload you and re-traumatize you, which is not what the good ones are looking to do, not if they're following best practices. So yeah, we're going to go on. And yeah, this be the verse says that they may be getting too close to the trauma they're protecting you from. Yeah, that's a valid point. Okay, Lindsay, yeah, head out, no problem. Absolutely. We always leave the live streams up, so feel free to watch later on and comment if you want. We always go back and check them. We don't always get notified of all the comments, or particularly when we've replied to something and then you reply back to us. So like every week or so, we try to run back through them to catch any that we've missed. So if we don't respond immediately, that's probably why. Also, for you new people, our hearts, when we heart a comment, it's a little bit differently. That doesn't automatically mean that we agree or support everything that you're saying. A heart for us is more, we have heard you, we've read your comment, you've made a valid point, thanks for expressing that, because we don't have the time to reply to everybody. We try to, particularly when we're asked a direct question. But don't assume just because we've hearted something that we agree with it or we stand with that viewpoint. We're just basically saying, hey, thank you for expressing this. Thank you for expressing your viewpoint, being nice about it. That's completely valid. So that's what that means. Like I said, we run things a little bit differently, so it can be confusing for you guys at first. So yeah. Okay, moving back on, because we're way behind. Okay, yeah, Roses is going over more of that. Let's see. Yeah, Ellie's saying in 2017 you found stuff about mental issues and even things about wanting this, but it just blew our mind that there can be multiple consciousnesses. This finding about this led to transition and trauma. Yeah, we knew about, you know, multiple personalities. We'd watched Sybil and whatnot. We knew it was out there, and it was kind of like, wow, that's pretty wild and weird. It never in a million years occurred to us that we might have it. Never occurred. It just completely out of the blue. That's why our diagnosis video is titled "You're telling me I have what?" Because that was our reaction. It's like, good joke. Now, what's really wrong with us? No, really. It's like, so yeah. Okay, let's see. Carolyn's saying never heard of the TITHs before finding this channel. Having that terminology has helped a couple of friends express their experiences. So thank you very much for that. Data will take your compliment. He was the one responsible for finding that and his never-ending digging through academic treatises and stuff that we can't make heads or tails of, but he's able to read that gobbledygook. So we actually placed a link to the PDF on that on one of our things. So look for that. Check out the comment section. We're actually going to be doing an upcoming episode specifically dealing with the TITH headaches. That kind of got shoved to the side for the Moon Knight reviews that we've been doing. And we want to say thank you to our long-term viewers. We know this is not our regular programming, and you've kind of been inundated with it. We've got 2 more episodes to go, episode 5, which we've already watched, and we have to go back and rewatch that. We've been giving ourselves. We watched it 2 days ago, and because it triggered us, we cut real close to some flashback territory and things that happened to us. Pretty much a lot. There were basically some dead lifts out of our own experience there, where it was like, okay, we've been here before. So it's taken us a couple of days. I don't want to say to stabilize from that, but to definitely chew on it. So either later today or probably tomorrow we'll be going through and bullet pointing and then filming the episode for that later. But we had to give ourselves some times because it's heavy. They finally address the trauma there, and they do it in a very realistic but a tactful manner. It was well done. But anyway, that's we don't want to go off into that because we'll give you our thoughts on that. But thank you to our long-term viewers for putting up with this kind of a one-off thing, and thank you for all of our new viewers who have come to us because of it. Again, dig through our content because that doesn't represent what it normally is about. But we're glad that you guys have been enjoying it. So yeah, but we're also appreciative that our long-term viewers haven't been alienated by that. We'll get back to it, we swear. Just 2 more. But Carolyn, we're glad, and look for the episode on TITH where we will go into more detail on how those work. Okay, so Christina Costa saying that hello, bye. Yeah, we're glad to see you. Catch up on the stream later. Sorry, you guys are probably all gone by now. Rose is saying that she's still waiting for Boots Does movie reviews. We'll see. He's not really an on-camera kind of guy, but we've poked the idea at him, and he's kind of like, you know, it's like, but we'll see. Let's see. Closest that you're probably going to get to that, if we let him do it, is after the Moon Knight is all wrapped up. We may let Data go through and list all of the historical and Egyptology inaccuracies that are in the show. Because man, as one of our viewers stated, it's been really chapping his ass some of the inaccuracies going on. But we were originally going to include them in the reviews, but we realized that it would just make them that much longer and rantier. And as it is, it's like on the last one, we were pushing an hour on that. So thank you very much to you guys who actually sat all the way through it. It does help our analytics and helps the stuff to show up better. But we're, you know, obviously watching our own pace. All right, so back here. Yeah, exactly. Totally should have clarified the persecutor for. Okay, lockback. Yeah. We do not lock up our persecutors. Yeah. Timeout temporarily. So we're going through to make sure that we haven't missed anything important. Because inevitably we go back and we review the chat log later, and it's like, oh damn it, we missed that. So yeah. Okay, yeah. Ellie on the early divorce, yeah. We wish that ours had done that, but yeah, actually, our mom had, our egg donor, sorry, had divorced our birth father before we were even three. And in fact, that's how we ended up with the groomer that became our stepfather and his lovely brothers. Although we have to say there was one brother who was not a fucking pedophile pervert. Curiously, he was gay, flamboyantly gay at the time when that was a very dangerous thing. But and ironically, we were drawn to him because he was the only one that didn't abuse us, who actually looked at us like an actual human being and actually got between us and our abuser and his other brothers several times. So hats off to you. He's since passed beyond the veil, but yeah, for those people out there who say, "Oh, gay guys, will abuse little boys and stuff like that," that's bullshit, boys and girls, because he had a profound impact on us. Despite the fact of being in that family, he saw it for what it was and chose to go his own way. And some of the more formative bits, positive bits of our lives. For example, our quest for spirituality and worldwide religions and the similarities and the differences between them. The look for enlightenment beyond just standard Judeo-Christian thought, although we're versed in that as well. He was the one that opened up our eyes to that. So he opened up a whole other world and parts of our personalities. So something good can even come from a toxic family. His other brothers and his father were trash, utter abusive, pedophile trash. This was one of these generational abuse things. The club, as it were. Okay, we're just going to stop there because we're getting close into trigger warning territory and we don't want to traumatize you guys. Um, but yeah, that family disruptions, yeah, can absolutely be a part of it. Again, that's an unstable situation, and if it continues, particularly in with emotional abuse or whatnot going hand in hand with it, yeah, absolutely. So don't minimize that. Okay, so back to we've been told we could be a lawyer. We want to be a baker, then be a baker. Do what you want to do. Let's see here. Okay, Oxymoron is saying, I think at least some of them had to be grown ups very early, but are very traumatized and did not develop like normal adults. Yeah. Yeah. Had to grow up quick. They talk about old souls. Oh, he's such a smart child. He must be an old soul. No, we were terribly abused and we had to learn to function on an adult level in order to minimize the abuse that same adults were levying towards us. We had to be 2 steps ahead of the game because you guys were constantly abusing us if we didn't pay attention. Not an old soul. I'm a traumatized one. Thank you very much. So, Carolyn's taking off. Thank you. Thank you very much. Talk about parenting is really helpful. Want to be a parent someday, so any advice on how to parent is well appreciated. Absolutely. It's chaos. It's constantly playing catch up, and it's we're not going to get into it. But yeah, being a parent is one of the most satisfying and frustrating things that you will ever undertake. The responsibility for raising another human being and shaping their awareness is an incredibly awesome and humbling responsibility, and frustrating and wonderful and joyous. And we really wish to hell that we had realized that we had DID way before we did, because we would have done a lot of things much differently, and growing up would have been a lot more positive and stable for our kids. Because unfortunately, because we weren't taught anger regulation or really how to deal with anything like that, we had to stumble through, and we have been abusive at times. Not physically, but we have been emotionally abusive because that is what was done to us, and we have owned that. We are, I don't want to say not afraid, but we are willing to look at ourselves hardcore, and always have been, and go, okay, we fucked up. We did this. We're not proud of it. We're sorry. We're going to try to do better. But we've had to swallow some real uncomfortable truths and uncomfortable conversations and stuff that we didn't want to look at. that you just want to go, no, that's not us. We didn't do, no, that's not us. We don't do that. Yeah. You don't have proper perspective, buddy. Listen to what your wife is saying. Should have done that sooner. Anyway. So, yes, Carolyn, thank you very much for stopping by. Hello, because you're watching this on replay. So. But yeah, absolutely. That shock of learning that you're a multiple is nuts. Naomi, hello, welcome. Hoping that you would pop in. Glad to see you. Blue Rose has a question. Go ahead and ask it. I'm sure that you already have. Spindle saying, dang, what did I miss? I love the froggy thumbnail for this live, by the way. Yeah, here he is. That's Mr. Slap Bracelet Tree Frog. So there you go there. We take a picture of something randomly because they give you like 3 seconds to take a thumbnail. We always go and change it later. But okay, so yeah. Okay, Blue Rose is asking a question here. They want to know, does anybody else here have differences in physical, psychological experiences with the body? E.g., one of us needs glasses, but the others don't. Allergy reactions to food and medications, etc. This was something that we actually tested ourselves because our various alters both need and don't need the glasses. Some of them prefer to just simply take them off. In order to try to get some hard data on this, downloaded an eye test graph, like they give you as a kid, cover one eye. And we set it up and we actually logged the results. And we didn't find actually that there was any real direct physical evidence of what to us was a subjective experience. Our eyes were still crap. Now, interestingly, some of our alters had worse eyesight than others, but nobody really had better eyesight. So for us, that physical body limitation is still there. There's some that just can't really be overcome. And yet, we have MRI and EEG studies out there that show that there is a clear difference in the brainwave patterns. So there can be physiological changes. We haven't experienced any hard and fast ones. A lot of it is things like food dislikes. One will like this, one won't like that. There are skills. For example, we're still trying to identify exactly who it is that loves to play the piano as a stress releaser. There's several of us, and we're not sure exactly who, but some of us, we know how, but we can't play as well as the others do. So there is that. And we've noticed actually when we do go to play afterwards, our eyesight is always really fuzzy. And we haven't been able to figure out why. So maybe that ties into it. Maybe it doesn't. We're not sure. But we haven't had any actual documentable physical differences. We're still looking for them, and that's still on data's horizon as it willows, but that's our experience. I'm sure that other systems may well have experienced that. So we can only give our thing on that. Let's see here. 5 Pieces of 9. Hello, 5. Good to see you. Cloud or whoever is fronting right now. We're talking about, Emma's saying some of us are left-handed. We are ambidextrous. We're right-handed dominant, but we can do equally well with either hand. So that may play into it. There are a lot of little things like that. So yeah, what we need is more studies. We need a larger database to try to determine, is this a common thing? Which are the common things? How does this work? Again, so much of the science and the stuff around DID is just still in its infancy. So a lot of work still needs to be done. Okay, let's see here. So, literally, Oxymoron is talking about the glasses thing. Bootstraps had the worst vision out of all of us, and he hates to wear the glasses unless he has to. He's constantly taking them off to look at something close. So yeah, minor differences, but nothing in our case that could be quantifiable, as it were. So it sounds like Ellie here is pretty much COCON like we are, pretty much 100% of the time, which is absolutely exhausting. Okay, let's see. Emotional amnesia. Yeah, okay. The roses, we're just going to let you run with that ball. Sophia said, "Hi, saw you were doing a live stream. Wanted to stop in and tell you how thankful I am for what you're doing on this channel. Don't have DID, and your channel has helped me learn a lot. Thank you very, very much for your kind words, Sophia. We do try to speak to everybody, and we're glad that our experiences and whatnot, and the knowledge that we've gained through therapy is helping some folks out there. So both NTs and systems and folks with trauma. So thank you very kindly. We're also very bad at taking compliments, so we've because of the abuse and whatnot. You learn to keep your head down, and it's self depreciation, but so we're trying to be better about that. So thank you. We do sincerely appreciate the compliments that you guys give us, even if we try to deflect, maybe with humor or whatnot. Thank you for that. We appreciate the validation. So let's see here. Okay, 420 Witch is saying Qui-Gon has always interested me. Any video suggestions, Chris? Yes, absolutely. And we will post the link once we're done with the stream down here. But if you just go into your Google search bar and type in it's 8 pieces of silk. That should just bring it right up. We can't do it right now because we're on our devices, but it's 8 pieces of silk. It's there's only like 3 videos on the channel, and it's this little elderly we think she's Chinese maybe, but just effortlessly doing these exercises, and we're like, oh my god, you're kicking our ass, lady. When you do start it though, you're going to be kind of fumbling to learn the moves first. And then you'll get into the pattern of it. After you learn the moves, you learn that the breath and the body and the movements all tie together. But yeah, that little old lady, man, she will kick your ass. It's just like, damn, girl, you got some serious. But then, of course, she's been doing it like every day for her entire life. So 8 pieces of silk routine. I think there's also a Shaolin monk who has one. But ours is the little elderly Chinese lady, I think, and she's wearing like a purple jumpsuit or something. We'll drop the link down below for you, 420 Witch, but you should be able to find it without any real problems. We did it. Welcome. Hi, all on Divinity System. Hope everybody's okay. In the chat, keeping well. Just popped in on our phone to say hi. But we'll be watching on YouTube on our TV, so can't comment. That's okay. Feel free. Thank you for dropping in and saying hi. We did it. Glad to see you here. Everybody's welcome in the chat. Okay, let's see. Talking about left hand and right hands. Okay, Spindle saying, from the very beginning, I viewed likes, hearts, and thumbs up as acknowledgement and support. It never made sense to get 20 likes on a post about you feeling sad. Hope nobody likes that. Yes, that's pretty much the way that we look at it. We're not personally endorsing anything. It's just saying, hey, thanks for stating that. That's a cool viewpoint. We're let you know that we did that, because you guys can't see when we like something, so it's that little bit of personal contact from us going, hey, we took the time, we see what you're saying, we acknowledge it. If we feel that there's a compelling point or we have the opportunity to do so, we'll comment back and expound. But we really do try to stay in contact with you guys, I don't want to say a personal level, but we do care about you guys beyond just the you're our viewers on our channel, blah blah blah. Talk to our long-term viewers. They know how we are and get it. Houndoon GH, welcome. Glad to see you, Alec. Thanks for stopping in. More back and forth. Okay, let's see here. Spindle is saying, I'm sure this isn't how it works, but every time you mention data researching, I imagine data in the back of your mind surrounded by stacks of books and an old 98 computer in real time. You're pretty close, particularly about the books. God, no, this is going to be one of these where it's like, how the hell do you describe the interior of the headspace? Not so much, he is the computer, basically. In his area of the headspace, think of it as kind of an infinite library or filing cabinet. It's like this big round, it's all a mental construct, so it can change according to whim. It's more like a huge library or filing cabinet that contains every single salient fact or thing that we've experienced or thing that he's observed or picked up on, all of his predicting patternings or these little random bits like we're out shopping and our wife will say, "Oh, that's a cute sweater." He immediately files it under possible Christmas gift. She likes this thing. Note for further reference, and it goes away in the little filing cabinet. And when the time comes, he pulls it back out, and the thoughts will get connected, and he has his own system. But yeah, that's pretty much it. He's generally out at around in the early mornings if he's on a tear about something or he wants to look something up. He and I are co-con almost 99.9% of the time. But most of the time, he just sits back and he watches everything for patterns. Is this person going to hurt us? We can walk into a room, and within 2 seconds, he's already identified everyone in there, what they're wearing, how far we are from an exit, where they're sitting, where it will be. It's just on and on and on. It's a miracle that he's still going. I mean, this is why his face claim looks old, because it burns him out. The poor guy, and in many ways, he was one of the first of us formed. He is an ANP. He's not an EP in any sense of the word. His excuse us, that went down the wrong way. The closest to like an emotional response he can have is pride and being able to have figured something out. And he does enjoy expounding on something, he loves intellectual discussions and things. So, but yeah, if we start to get wordy or real technical, that's him starting to leak through or take over the front. But like I said, he and I have been so intermeshed that he just comes in and out as he pleases, and it's seamless, really. I'm sure you guys may have noticed a difference. Our wife and family have said, yeah, there's a clear difference when he comes in. So, but yeah, not far off there, Spindle. Very similarities. Honestly, the closest that we've ever actually seen on TV, a physical representation of the way that he perceives the headspace, is in the last season of Star Trek Discovery, the Trill. I can't remember his name, but basically they're forced to go to Trill so that he can reconnect with all of he's essentially suppressing all the memories from the previous hosts inside of the Trill, and they go in and they're in this vast room with all of these threads hanging from the ceiling that then come down to connect to them, and they carry memories with them. And when we watched that, he was like, yes, that's closest. And it was like, oh my God, for the first time, somebody actually gotten it pretty damn right. So that's about the closest physical representation. Otherwise, it's pretty much as we've described. So moving on. So yeah, you're pretty close, Spindle. Let's see here. Moving on. We're talking about physical effects and food reactions. P is talking about, yes, as a historian, inaccuracies annoy so much with data here, talking about the inaccuracies in Moon Knight. Boots writes the review and someone else can present. We'll see. Okay. Throwing in my bid for Bootstrap's 5-minute home improvement corner. Okay, yeah. Okay, we'll keep it in mind. Like that, he's rough around the edges. Very, this is the way that I'm feeling, and I'm not afraid to express it. Get the hell out of my way so that I can do what I'm here to do. Yeah, anyway. Yeah, wow, we are way behind here. Spindle is saying it's never a gay thing that makes a child abuser. It's a terrible person environment. Sounds like that one brother defied the odds twice. Twicefold considering his family and environment. Yeah, he did, and he went through some hardcore stuff. He worked intelligence. He was an intelligence officer during the Vietnam War, and he got caught in, I think it was Saigon, the big battle there. He got pinned down, and he was behind the lines there for the better part of 2 weeks. And when he came back out, this was before we were born, obviously, but we were told it changed him forever. And come to think of it, I wonder now if maybe he wasn't a system as well. That would actually, come to think of it, explain a great number of things about how he acted. But yeah, he was incredibly smart. But yeah, he went through some hardcore crap. and still managed to beat the odds. So yeah, yay for him. Thank you again. Um, so yeah, let's see here. Yeah, wow, we're way behind here. Okay, we're gonna catch up. So talk amongst yourselves. Um, Thanks for stopping in, Dragons. Yes, definitely go watch a movie for the littles. And for those of you who aren't familiar, Little Stories is it's the thing that Percival does. We got a whole playlist. He reads stories to littles. Think Mr. Rogers meets DID. It gives them a safe place and content that they can come and watch repeatedly. That's we wanted to give them a dependable, consistent, like we were talking about earlier, area where they can feel safe, even if it's just virtual. On that note, if any of your littles don't already have one and like a sheep on the wall, these are the little sheep. Art by Roses down there initially, and she allowed us to go ahead and adapt them to the sheep. So if one of your littles would like a name on their sheep so they can be a part of the safe space, feel free to drop it in the comments section or send us a DM on Instagram or just give us an email or whatnot, and we'll happily put your littles' names with sheep on the wall there. And we even got a couple of adults in there who are kids at heart there, so don't be afraid to ask. And we'll try to get them up. It won't be in the next 2 little stories because we have already actually shot those. He did 3 in a row just to get them out of the way, so it's sitting there waiting for me to edit. But we will have the new names up after that. We may find a way to squish them in, but it's technical and we're gonna have to get into it. So if anybody wants a sheep, let us know. Hit us up in the comment section below. Spindle is saying, so important for parents, especially traumatized parents, to apologize but also recognize the painful truth of, well, being abusive. Cannot stress this enough. Thanks for addressing that. Yeah. That's we have, whether it was the abuse or just us innately, we have always, probably it's because none of our abusers ever said, I'm sorry, or took responsibility for their actions. Truth and owning up to things has always been very important to us. And this has actually been a bad thing because we have cut ourselves very little slack over the course of time and been very, very hard on ourselves in a lot of ways that we didn't need to be, but we didn't know why. So now we do, and we're starting to untangle all of that. Work in progress. So yeah, thank you, Spindle, for recognizing that, because it's not an easy realization. Oh, hey, wow, are we actually fairly well caught up here? Yeah, okay, wow, we're not as far behind as we thought. Okay, yay. Sorry, we're poking at the phone here, and just ignore our grizzled face. We didn't shave because the hair on the arms and everything is back, and we're going to need to we're going to need to shave again because we finally gave in. Here's an update on you guys who watched the night with DID, the part 2 of Day with DID, and then that's a lot heavier because we do show the flashbacks and Jack being persecutor Jack and shoving the trauma in our face. But there's a bit where we're getting out of the shower and Mimi's like, just shave legs and you don't have to listen to me, bitch. So we made the decision that this would be a small thing. If it helps some of us feel comfortable, particularly the littles. And Mimi's a tween. John, of course, we can't reach him. He's closed off. There's no connection there. He's broken. Although curiously, he actually did sneak out the last time that the littles were fronting, and actually apparently said or spoke to our wife. Had great difficulty speaking, again due to the trauma, both physical and emotional and spiritual. Intellectual, but he actually communicated with our wife, which really took us aback because he basically, when he comes out and there's anyone in the room that he doesn't recognize, his thing is to squish into a corner behind a piece of furniture and make himself as small as possible. And if somebody starts to approach, he starts screaming in fear and he's constantly hungry. Whenever he comes out, he's famished. He's ravenously hungry because food was used as a control measure with us, and yeah. Anyway, to ensure our compliance and the you couldn't eat until you performed afterwards, and it depended upon the whim of whichever mommy or daddy that we were servicing at that particular point in time as to whether or not we got fed or taken care of. In between mommies and daddies, they would take us back and get us roughly cleaned up. We're touching on some serious shit here, so we'll get off of it in a minute there. But yeah, this is why John is unreachable. We're trying, but there's some kind of a connection with him there, with the Disney movie Sleeping Beauty, because we were watching, the littles watching it, and then all of a sudden he was fronting. And he just, when Flora, Fauna, and Merryweather came on the screen, the three fairies, he zeroed in on them, and it was this instant, gut-wrenching, bottomless, yearning pain in the very depths of his/our soul. And we think at some point somebody told him that that fairies only came for good little boys, and that he would never get that. And yeah, here we're starting to get into the trauma, so we're going to go back to the chat and move on. So I think we had a point there, but we got off on the side. So where do we go? Allergic reactions. Weak Cloud is looking at Tai Chi instead of Qigong. Yeah, absolutely. They're very similar, very similar. But it's the breath body movement. So yeah. Okay, Oxy, I'm sure they've already answered your question here. They've been, as asking, they've been shown a memory some days ago, and since then they're struggling with memory-related pain out of nowhere. Every now and then, any suggestions how to cope with that? Let it come out of its own accord. And keep in mind that when trauma is starting to come out and leak out, you are going to have both intellectual, emotional, and physical effects. One of the most common is a feeling of diffuse, which means non-specific. You can't quite pin down where it's coming from. Pains in your abdomen. A lot of us will have upset stomachs, or diarrhea, irregular bowel issues, and things like that that will crop up. But it is all tied together: the mental, the emotional, and the physical. So as this trauma starts to come out, you're going to start to experience some of the same symptoms that have been imprinted literally into your body, your reactions. We've lately been reading up on and watching more of Vanderkolk's stuff, and another guy whose name escapes us the moment, about the polyvagal theory and how that plays in. And it's kind of complicated. And this, again, there are more than one theories out there as to what may cause this, and there's some overlap and some disagreements among the academics. But this was one of the things that he was stating, is this stuff all gets imprinted, and as the trauma begins to come back out, you're going to experience these physical and emotional and mental side effects. So be prepared for that. It's not unusual. As far as coping with it, don't push it, and you're just going to have to kind of ride it out. Trust that your brain will spit it back out when it's appropriate. And again, this falls under the don't push category. Don't push. So yeah, Blue Rose is saying self-care, take care of your body in the here and now, acknowledge the pain that was, and know that these symptoms, these physical symptoms that you're probably gonna have, and these will and it can and will lead into body memories. A body memory is the physical sensation of what was happening to you at the time the trauma occurs, that has literally been locked into your body's memories, and certain trains of thought and certain traumas will trigger them. You will re-experience them. For example, in the Night with DID, when we're in the shower, we are re-experiencing the sensations of being bound, of being tied down via our hands and our wrists and our ankles. And you can see, if you look carefully, some of the scars that were inflicted on us on our ankles there on the film. And that's what we were when Jack is starting to push, when he says, do you remember how that felt? And the body memories are intense. They are intense. It's like we're just talking about them brings them back up. We've learned to breathe through and control them, but they can be very powerful. So watch out for that. Your body and your brain and your emotions will have a lot of reactions that don't make any sense to you at that point. You'll figure it out later when as stuff falls in. But you have to. The point is, give yourself permission and leeway to feel these things and not to follow the impulse that is programmed into us, which is natural anyway, which is to push it away because it's unpleasant and to possibly blame yourself for it. There's that guilt, blame, shame spiral again. So give yourself permission to feel these things. Don't try to control them. Just kind of follow them out. And obviously, if we're getting into self-harmy behaviors, you don't want to go overboard on that. So if you start to get overboard, back off. Again, the TITH is one of those canary in the coal mine, things. So self-care, there goes the reconnecting thing that it does every time. Not sure why it does that, because there's never any gap. So there we are in that. That's our thoughts on that. Oxy. And, okay, so there, yeah, literally Blue is saying the same thing in one sentence that it took us 3 minutes to say. Let's see. Spindle is asking, random, but I wonder for system parents, do kids prefer a certain alter? I imagine a situation like the kid is in trouble with someone and goes, well, alter A, B, and C, let me paint my nails black. We haven't experienced that, but there is no doubt, as we're starting to peel things back, that certain alters have been more involved at certain points with raising the kids. For example, Percival with literature and storytelling and things like that. Bootstraps just for the discipline and being a hard ass, but unfortunately this is where he has went overboard into abusive territory, which we can say we never learned how to cope. We weren't given these tools, and that is a fact, but it is not an excuse and never has been. Just now that we're being aware does not absolve us of this. It just simply means that now that we know why we've been reacting this way, and then you have to then identify the behavior and go, okay, this is a trauma-based reaction. Why are we having this? Where does this connect? And then what can we do to change it, or at least become aware of why we're doing this? And that leads down to the, oh my God, is there any part of my life, soul, thought that has not been impacted by the trauma? And it's so pervasive, or at least in our case, that it's like there is no part of our life that was ever not touched by it or influenced by it. And that leads to the anger and wanting to go knock on egg donor's door and go, exactly at what point did you realize that your husband was raping us? And how could you turn a blind eye and, have that confrontation? But we also know that she would deny everything and would never give us any of the closure. And we decided before that we knew that we were DID that she needed to be cut out of our lives, because we attempted to deal with the issues and it was just deflect. So we cut her out of our lives for our own well-being and that of our children, because we weren't going to allow her to perpetuate the emotional abuse that we were subjected to, that we were already aware of before we knew that we were a system. So while there have been different alters who have interacted with our kids, there hasn't been anyone that they have specifically said, okay, we like Rosemary better than X person. They've been very accepting, but maybe it's just because we've been later on and we've been more of a cohesive, effed up person than separate. Now we're separating. I don't know if we see where we're going. Anyway. Let's see. Spindle saying the infinite library and file cabinets is interesting. Yeah, again, it's just a mental construct. That's basically what the headspace is. It's a mental construct that we form, or that the alters form. This actually ties into where we're going with Moon Knight with the next episode. Turns out we were actually pretty close to the mark when we hypothesized that the hospital environment was in fact the headspace. We weren't far off. So anyway, don't want to jump ahead. Let's see. Data is Ilian, an elf who is 5 pieces of 9 is saying is 638 years old and would say that he knows enough. Yeah. Data doesn't have an age. He doesn't. Time is kind of an abstract yeah, okay. We'll get way the hell off if we go into that, so we'll just shelve it. Yeah, Blue Rose is talking about the body memories here and how to help deal with those. Yes, Roses originally drew the sheep and also drew Bo Peep, and we asked their permission to use the artwork as the idea clicked into place, and they've been very gracious about that. But yeah, they draw fantastic art, so ask them about this, and now they're going to tell us later. God damn it! Why did you have to mention us? But it's we try to encourage their talent because they're immensely talented. They're an immensely talented system. So yeah. So sheeps, yes. Okay, people not feeling offended because we're backlog on the chat. Thank you. Okay, Ellie, yeah, interesting. The more I accept the system, the more it feels time is getting bad. Amnesia seems to be getting worse, as well as dissociation and not knowing who I am. The more I accept, the more ungrounded I become. Yes, and we have experienced this firsthand, and we're actually, this is a natural part of the process, and something that I, Chris, as the host slash core, ostensibly, have been dealing with. Knowing that there have been so many of us in here and that we all grew up together, it has definitely led to me questioning, am I the original? Because I do black out. I experience the blackout time periods, not so much as we used to, but yeah, early on, just after after the therapy session where Christopher recovered the memory of Jenny and Jane, and those of you who have watched that video, as long as we remember, you know what happened there, where we kind of detail. That day, it was this is going to sound trite, but our mind just, we couldn't deal with it. Could not deal with it. 2 hours after that, we were sitting on the front porch, just trying to self-soothe, because the psychic weight of watching those two girls that Christopher had seen, sorry, there's no other way to see it, murdered in front of our eyes, and his eyes, just the power of that and the weight of that and the memory of it all came back, and we were going through it and feeling it all and smelling it all, and it broke us. Something inside snapped, and I went away. Chris went away, and for basically 2 days, Christopher fronted, fully in control of the body. We're not sure exactly how that happened or why he chose to front. It seems nonsensical, but yeah, so now lately the train of thought has been wondering, am I me? Am I the core? Am I another alter? Am I going to go away? What happens if I let go of that fear of surrendering completely to another alter voluntarily? So yeah, we get where you're coming from, and part of it is a natural process. You're going to go through these things as your journey to getting to know yourselves and healing and your therapy goes along. So don't feel bad about that, Ellie. That's natural, or at least we went through it. So yeah, we get that. It's tough. Akshaya, hello. We haven't seen you in a while. Thanks for dropping in. Yeah, okay. Roses is saying that's a pretty universal experience for systems. So yeah. Yeah, Caden's saying, sounds like, hey, Caden, good to see you. Sounds like some congratulations are in order for that little one for making some steps towards communicating. We're assuming that you're talking about John. John and Jack and Mimi all came into being at the same time. That was a 3-way split. And that was when Christopher D split into 3, or was forcibly split into 3. We've kind of went over what happened, but it was massive, and that occurred when we were roughly around between 10 to 12 years old. So they're not littles, but it's kind of weird because Jack then grew up with us, whereas John, the experience broken. There are broken things. So yeah, the fact that he actually did come out and talked with our wife, even, and was not afraid, shows, yeah, there's been some progress there, but we know that he's not aware of us because we've tried, and it's just, he's like inside of a crystalline bubble that we can pound on the outside as much as we can, but he's still locked there. He is still locked in that day. Yeah, we're just going to stop there because it's ugly. It's ugly. It's what rich people do to children when they can go and pay and do whatever they damn well want in private. And there is another real similar incident with Jenny and Jane, except her name was Jill. So anyway, so yeah, Caden, he's making some progress. We hope that at some point we'll be able to communicate directly with him. We don't hold out much hope, though. So anyway, moving on. Tampax, thank you, Roses. Let's see what they had to say. Are you serious? Did we seriously get a... Oh my god, a Tampax spot. Yeah, thank you for taking care of that, Roses. Man, now that's a weird one. We haven't had one of those before. Bizarre. Even if that's a troll, that's just a really obtuse, stupid way to troll. I don't know. But this is why we have Roses. Like we said, there's that bam hammer. Not afraid to use it. Bizarre. That's funny. Yeah, Ellie, we see what you're saying there. Be the verse, Ellie, have massive fears of denial and that we're faking. It seems cyclical to me, like I'll experience more symptoms of the trauma, and that will cause a constriction of denial, and what if we lied? This be the verse, we think that you've probably already watched it, but go watch Trauma Doesn't Lie, because a lot of that is in there, and we deal directly with it. And it's one of these, okay, let's take a look at the hard facts. And we lay them out for you. But yeah, if you haven't seen that, go watch it. It may help you to give you that hard line, to have something to be true. This be the verse is saying, I feel like the denial is a defense. Yes, that's exactly what it is. So that's maybe why I get bouts of it after bouts of experiencing more trauma-based symptoms. Yeah, that's the pendulum, and you will swing back and forth, even when you're not doing trauma work. So that's completely true. Yeah, Rose is saying dissociation is basically denial died up to 12, so yeah. Yeah, fakers don't worry that they're faking. If anything, they might worry they aren't worrying enough, as a non-faker would. Yes, we that's the totally twisted logic, but absolutely true. 420 saying they get the emotional flashbacks more than the physical visual flashbacks. Everybody's going to be a little bit different. We get a lot of hardcore visual and tactile somatic flashbacks. They do have the emotional component, obviously, but yeah, we get the boom. 5 pieces. TITH equals take interest in the host. No, that's the vicious headaches that systems get, particularly when we're hard switching. It's called a transitional interpersonality thunderclap headache. TITH. We'll be doing an episode specifically on them for, and to our knowledge, we were the first people to run across it. So everybody was like, well, we've never heard of that before. It's like, yeah, that's because Data dug it up in this obscure paper, one-off study type of a thing. But we were like, aha, they have a name. So yeah. Solidarity and support to talking to 5 Pieces of 9 for approaching the very dark stuff. That's some harrowing experience there. We're really glad that the altar who is holding the happiness for the system is. This is one reason why we suggest that you guys go and check out 5 Pieces of 9's channel. They have a unique way of doing things, and rather like us, but in a completely different way. They have chosen to address the darker things not only for educational purposes, but to help in their own healing. So yeah, feel free to go, please go check it out. If it's not your thing, that's great, but definitely deserve attention for that. We're very proud of them for starting the channel and continuing to keep on with it and express themselves in their own unique fashion. So still, we're very proud of you, Cloud and Ilian and everyone for doing that. Okay, so let's see here. Caden Knight wants to know if you still wanted other answers, but as a cis parent, our kid, age 7, doesn't really understand, but he does prefer certain of us because some of us have an easier time parenting with fun stuff. Yeah, Caden, don't be afraid to respond to the questions. As we stated in the beginning, you probably weren't here for this. Our live streams act more as a Q&A, not so much as a Q&A directly to us, although we'll be happy to answer any direct questions, but more of a forum where everybody is allowed to ask questions and comment and support each other, because we all have a piece of the puzzle. So please feel free to comment on anything as you will. That's encouraged here. So let's see, getting involved, making videos. Yeah, definitely. Yeah, Oxymoron is saying that they sometimes feel they cannot deal with allowing memories and body feelings to happen. It's getting too much at the moment. Yeah, and stop yourself when you can. Like with us, we can't help it. It's going to come whether we want it or not. And we've had to learn to do what we can to minimize it, but it's still going to be there. So yeah. Okay, Cotton Candy, hello, good to see you again. We're trying to follow along. We just got here. Any tips on how to do that? Do you have no idea where we're all at? Can we save this and listen to it all later? Yeah, absolutely, Candy. We always leave the live streams up. Just look for them on the channel there. We always leave them up. Watch it later. Ask a question as you will. We don't ever delete any of our content. The only content that we have ever actually deleted or removed was that containing one of our other family members, and out of respect to them and their privacy and their wishes, we went ahead and removed those videos and took them down. But that is the only time that we will ever remove any of our content. We have posted a couple of, I don't want to say controversial videos, but those of our long-term viewers know the ones that we are referring to. If we feel compelled to do so, we will make our statement on something. And we will leave it there because we stand by what we have to say. Once we make a statement, it's out there. The internet is forever, but this all comes back to system responsibility. We do not delete our live streams. We do not delete our comments. We do not delete our content. Once it's up there, it's going to stay up there. And we know for a fact that we've had some subscribers who, when they discover some of these more controversial things, then unsubscribe. That's okay. We expect that, but we do not delete, and we stand by what we have to say on those different things. We say our piece, but then we do not address it again. And we have stuck by that. Our long-term viewers can attest to this. Once we say our piece, that's it. It's done, and it's over with, and it doesn't matter how many flying monkeys that you send after us. We're going to leave it there. We've had our say, and it stays. So if you've noticed those anomalies, that's what it's about, and we made our statements and we're comfortable sitting in them because that's just us. So yeah, don't worry, Cotton Candy, just follow along as you can. We always leave this stuff up. Yeah, talking about the faking, exactly. Yeah, okay, Cotton Candies, or I'm sorry, Starry Girl is saying, yeah, we leave the live streams up. Well, we should just basically just sit back and just read the comments and let you guys go at this point. So yeah, actually is saying denial is the worst. Yes, it is. This is why our sign-off, we don't remember exactly what entropy systems were, but we decided to have our sign-off being you're loved, you're strong, and you're not alone. These are action-oriented concepts. We're not quite sure we can make this point well. Maybe Roses can make it better, but ours are involved action comments. You are loved. This is an action thing. Somebody out there cares about you. You are strong. Not watching us makes you strong or doing this makes you are strong. You've gotten to this point. It's you have done this. Don't deny that, and you're not alone, which is the absolute truth, because look at all of us. There's, what, 22 of us in the chat right now watching this who all have the same things, or at least have an interest in DID, so you're not alone. And we felt that it was important to remind folks of these facts because these are things that we tend to forget. So, but it's more of a positive, action-oriented sign-off, reminding you guys of your own potential and your own worth and your own strength. Again, we make this about you guys rather than about us, although we have one piece of the puzzle. So those are our thoughts. So yeah. Talking more about faking so I can save it story. Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that there's a download option, Cotton Candy. I'm not sure, or save. It's always up there. You can always find the link. And then there's always YouTube downloaders. There's lots of programs out there that you can just download YouTube videos from. So check them out. I think we use one called Vidly, Viddly. There's lots of different ways you can get it. So yeah, feel free to download and watch later. But we always do leave them up. Catching up here. Yeah, 5 pieces of 9. Our altars are broken as well, so none are aging. Yeah, and that's just, that has to do with how the trauma is imprinted as well. But we do, in the time Frozen Moments, we do go into at least our theory on what causes age sliding among altars. We're not going to go into it here, but check out that video. Yeah, so just go to videos and click on this live stream. Cotton Candy, sorry, feel like literally not. Yeah, no, it's okay. Don't worry about it. Cotton Candy. Yeah, they're all there. Yeah, trauma doesn't lie. No, it does not. Trauma can't lie to you. It has no motivation. It has no agenda. Trauma doesn't lie. You can lie. You can tell yourself it didn't happen, but your trauma is always going to be there going, excuse me. Maybe Infinity's way of teasing. A collab or sponsor with Tampax? No, I'm afraid not. We're just not big enough to attract a sponsor like that or anything. We've had a couple of, which are obvious phishing attempts and whatnot through the email and just fake things trying to suck you in. But honestly, we're so suspicious that even if we did get a legit offer, we would be like, forgive us, but we don't believe you're actually real. You're going to have to prove yourself to us first. So yeah, but that's a good one. No. This live stream has not been brought to you by Tampax. Let's see. This be the verse. Trauma doesn't lie was really helpful for us. Thank you for making that serious. It's similar to like how the symptoms can be taken as evidence because the behavior is a hard science. Yes, trauma doesn't lie. If you have the symptoms, there's something underlying there. It's a hard wall that you can depend on. So yeah, let's see. Ellie's saying the videos you talk of, Chris, we watched within the last year while working on Doubt, but I know we almost completely forgot was in them, so watch them again. Yeah, we go back and rewatch Trauma Doesn't Lie when we need it. Several of our other viewers have said the same thing. So if it helps, rewatch it. Absolutely. We give you guys a lot of information. And we know that we kind of fire hose it at times. So yeah, feel free to go back and rewatch, recomment. Necro posting is completely okay with us. Blue Rose is saying the Jenny and Jane video really spoke to us, having a similar experience, and Chris being open about them and making sure they were remembered by all of us now. Yeah, and that maybe that was kind of a selfish thing on our part, but it was our way of making them. It was our way of obtaining closure-ish. Because it's still there fresh. We really don't allow ourselves to dwell in that. There's more of Christopher's trauma from that same area that we have not addressed. We haven't even went through in therapy yet because we now know well enough to just leave shit alone, that it'll come out on its own. But yeah, that was our way of memorializing them, working our way through it, and a little bit selfishly imprinting it in you guys so that they would be immortal. No matter what, even long after we're gone, that their story will be here on YouTube. And in our own way, it was the only thing that we could do. And after what they did for us, we felt that we owed it to them, which is why we did it in the format that we did. It was the only way that we could tell the story. It was something that we could not script. Even as brutal as it was, that was sanitized. We did not put everything in there that happened. Trust me, that day was far worse than we let on. So yeah. But thank you about that, Blue Rose, and everybody who has chosen to remember them. We know that was tough to sit through. It was tough to make. Yeah, honestly, I find myself remembering them frequently, and by extension, all the ones that have been silently lost. Yeah. And that was basically the driving. There was a bit of anger behind doing that because, God damn it, they did everything they could to strip us of identity. We were things. We weren't people. We weren't children. We were things. We were something to be used and thrown away. And we were told that directly. And that was our way of saying you to our abusers and giving them their names back. We don't know what their real names were. And Data looked. He damn near drove us crazy trying to find them. But it's kind of hard to trace missing children reports back to 1974 because the records just really didn't exist. But he tried. I don't know why. It's like, what would we have done? Contacted their parents and said, hi, we were a little boy that was abused with them, was part of that, and we watched them die. But eventually our therapist was like, you need to stop because you're punishing yourself. And we did learn to let it go, but basically that episode was our way of putting a capstone on that experience and giving them back their identities, even just the ones that we knew about, because for 48 years we forgot that they existed. Because after we were silenced about that, and our stepfather broke Kitty in half in front of us and told us that if we ever said anything about it, that was going to happen to us, Christopher went away. That's when he went into the void, and Susie came out and went from there, which we may cover at some other point. But yeah, thank you guys. All right, so catching up here. Yeah, you're welcome, Cotton Candy, absolutely. Caden says, I appreciate you all take responsibility for what you say, but also you do things like shifted your rating system for the Moonlight review to allow for some comic book violence. Yeah, and we judged a little harshly on that first episode, but again, we were only judging off of what we were given. Oh, God damn it. I can see that one coming up. Thank you, Roses. Just block that bastard out of here. We do not tolerate that crap. So, yeah, thank you for getting rid of that. Let's see. This be the verse. Yeah, absolutely. We admit when we're wrong, and we'll flex because we've always felt that was important. When you are denied truth as a child, it becomes a very important thing to you later on, and we can tell. Anyway, I'm not going to get into that. But yeah, thank you, Caden. We'll absolutely, change things around if we feel that it's valid. And you guys had a valid point. We were judging a little bit harshly without enough information. So yeah. And just to let you guys know, we do not watch the episodes in advance. So when we had done episode 4, we had not seen episode 5 yet because we want it to be our unvarnished reaction to that without knowing what is coming in the future. So we're behind the ball a little bit. So yeah, this be the verse says they feel the same about not deleting their content. It takes a lot of working through insecurities and fears. Yeah, exactly. We get what you're saying. But it feels like being accountable, but also standing by past versions of ourselves and our experiences and interpretations. Yeah, absolutely. Bops. Yeah, okay. Thank you, Roses. That was a squeamish one, but yeah, thank you. Better to step on that before it came along. Yeah, Spindle saying the phrasing is important. Yes, absolutely. On our sign off, yes. Sorry, we're starting to move. Yeah. Is saying about avoiding Moon Knight because you're scared of triggers. Would you be willing to give an overall rating? We were huge Marbleheads before Moon Knight. The series has been showing. We've reviewed the first 4 episodes. They have been showing some excellent representation. Actually, they have not gotten everything right. And they have leaned into some negative tropes. But on the whole, we can't remember the name of the doctor that they brought in. We reference it in the we need to talk about before our first review. It's obvious that they are trying to do right by us as best they can. Out of everything that we've seen containing DID, they've actually given us some pretty damn good representation. Now, as far as triggers go, we would not advise, me personally, and the system as a whole, do not advise watching that unless you self-care and you know what you're getting into, because they actually do show the abuse. They get into it and they deal with the trauma, and they give a very tasteful but accurate representation of what it's like to be abused and the things that your abusers will say, because we can tell you flat out that several of the things that Mark's mom is saying and doing, it was like watching ourselves on a video screen. It kicked the gut hard. So for those of you who have not seen episode 5 yet or avoiding the series, watch out. That is the most serious one. We're going to be digging in depth into that. We had to give ourselves a day or 2 off in order to digest it. And we're curious to see where they're going. But yeah, it's heavy duty, and they do deal with it honestly. To which we were very surprised, because they just kind of gloss over that, and it's obvious that they did their research. And they are trying their best to show us as accurately as they can. They do still lean into some tropes. But overall, yeah, we're very much surprised with how good it's been so far. We'll see. We still got the wrap up episode, so we'll see how they manage to put a cap on the whole thing. But yeah, much better representation than we thought. Okay, so let's see here. Wow, a troll and a butt and 1 live, rare. We get a few. Age sliding. Hello, troll. May I interest you in some Tampax brand temple? Thanks, Spindle. That's great. Cotton candy, breathe, Chris. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. If that's the case, Infinity, I'd like to thank you for being selfish. The video was important. Thank you. We're still deeply angry about that. We're going to spend the rest of our lives with that. And there's more that's worse that happened before and after that. Our therapist said that our abuse likely started shortly after birth. And that mothers will do terrible things to their children because they may resent them. And yeah, it's just classic. We could lay the whole timeline out for you, but it's just, yeah. Anyway, best kids of fun. Yeah, goodbye. You deleted message. Yeah, blah blah blah. Video feels like a releasing of lanterns in the lake as a memorial. Yeah. Yeah. Good similarity there. Holy smokes, this has to be a record of spam. It's because, yeah, influx of subscribers. Exactly what she's saying. It triggers the algorithm, which we don't pretend to know how the butts work, but as you get bigger, you get more of that crap. And it generally only shows up on our live streams. We don't really get a lot of that for our regular episodes because we've got filters and whatnot put in place. And we also personally look over any comments that have been set to the side to see if they're appropriate, because we prune our chat logs very carefully. We'll let people have their say, absolutely, like with opinions. We don't delete stuff. If you're saying something that we don't agree with, that's fine. We'll leave it there. You're entitled to your opinion as long as you don't abuse other people with it or take personal shots. It's going to stay there despite what some people might think. No, we leave it there. We don't do that, but we will moderate for trolls and porn links and just outright trolling. So yeah, it's just because we're growing. Did we eat our orange? No, Jocelyn, we didn't. Thank you. Yeah, see right here, perfect example of getting sidetracked and not taking self-care. It's now almost 3:30, and we've been doing this all on 1 cup of tea. Okay, 2 cups of tea. So yes, thank you. Actually, we're going to go ahead and close out the stream pretty shortly here because we do need to eat, and there's still some other stuff that we need to do during the day. Um, and plus, yesterday was a difficult day. Our daughter has been taking part in high school, theater productions, musicals, and whatnot, and had just been absolutely busting her ass for months now. And Thursday was their first performance, and that went off, but we were going to see the Friday one. But after school, while they were gathering, there were 2 middle schoolers who were stupidly throwing a combination lock against the brick wall just to be stupid middle schoolers. And one of the girls threw it and clocked our daughter upside the head, and she had to have 5 stitches put on, and she was due to perform. And it absolutely broke her heart. So yesterday was difficult for all of us around here. But see, we have medical based trauma as well, both personal and that surrounding the death of our first wife. We went through a lot. And so that tends to upset the system whenever I have to deal with that. Boots basically shoves his way to the front. Boots and Data go, okay, this is just here we're in crisis mode. We need to deal with this stuff now, and then we'll react later. So yeah, it's been rough. And plus there was several other things that happened through the course of the month. There's been upsets within the family that we're not going to go into, but there are just some heavy stuff that we've had to deal with. It's been a full month, so we're hoping that May will be a little quieter. But yeah. Okay, so getting back to here, smell the orange. If that's all you can do, sometimes trauma makes you lose your appetite. Yeah, absolutely it does. Caden saying, yeah, episode 5 was heavy duty, but I do agree that it felt tasteful in a way. And thank you, Caden, for giving us the trigger warning heads up on that. We can't remember who the other user was that did, but thanks to both of you and for all of you who have given us the heads up on the trigger warning before we watched it. Because even though that we knew that Marvel was going to go there at some point, and the Asylum was a big cue into that, even bracing ourselves, it was tough. We got triggered. And some stuff started to come to the surface, like you were saying, that we started to suddenly remember things that we hadn't before, and it's like, oh, okay, we're gonna put a pin in this. So yeah, but we thank you guys for giving us the heads up, and also for the other viewers who might not have been aware of it. So thank you, Caden. Definitely, we greatly appreciate that. 5 Pieces of 9. Thank you so much for giving us an overall rating. We will wait until I have our helper person with us before watching. Yeah, we do advise that. Pretty much everything's good up until the 5th episode is really where it gets into trigger territory. Although, the 4th, it depends on the system and the person. So yeah. Stargirl saying you have every right to be angry. Yeah, Spindle saying, does Moon Knight actually have DID? I thought it was like the alters depicted are more like superpowers. I haven't looked into it, but it's on my watch list. No, he's from what they're showing, they actually do have DID, but we're kind of going because they haven't actually. There's supposed to be 3 alters according to the comic books in the system, and it's kind of a quibble point because Data's been going, well, is this actually DID or is this more of an OSDD? And it's like but in the last episode, I think we're fairly sure, and Caden, I'm not sure if we're not sure if you're the one that brought this to our attention or not, but not being spoilery, but in episode 5, there is a certain point where we think that the more violent alter, we think his name is it Jake, starts to peek out, but there hasn't been an official, this is Jake, blah, 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 blah. So hopefully we'll see that happen in episode 6. But yeah, they're showing the system as best they can. They're winnowing it down and keeping it simplistic because they don't want to overwhelm the audience, or at least that's our take on it. But yeah, it's definitely, they're nailing enough of it to where we can call yes. So yeah. And we will be doing a system overview once, or a series overview wrap-up episode once we're done with all the reviews. So yeah. Let's see here. Actually, I was saying thank you. You can call us Ash or AT. It's okay. You can't change your Google name for safety reasons. We get that. Safety first. P is sending shortly after birth. There's some atrocious people in the world. I'm very, very sorry. Yeah, that one, that hit us in the gut. And we're going to leave out the details of what our therapist said that she has seen mothers do to baby boys and things like that. There's a lot of very specific physical abuse that can occur. And at first, we weren't willing to swallow that, but she's been dead on the nose, or she was dead on the nose about everything else. So we've had to reluctantly accept the fact that there may be more splits before Christopher, or at least that he took a lot more than we're aware of. That's still kind of a murky bit. We explored a lot of that particular point in Christopher's trauma, but not all of it. And there's at least three other. Ooh, yeah. Moving on. But thank you, Pia. It's tough to wrap your head around that, particularly as a parent. So yeah, Caden's saying, yeah, the superpowers are separate, but they do make that distinction in the episodes. Getting back to Moon Knight, yes. Sending you support and healing thoughts, and spending say, I have a right to anger to everything you've been through. Thank you for saying that, because our anger has been one thing that we have deliberately stuffed down and tried to keep under wraps our entire life, because that would make us like them. Turns out, no, we're actually entitled to it as long as we express it appropriately, which is the part where we're learning now, because we were never taught proper anger management skills or emotional regulation. So this is something that at 50 now we're having to learn how to deal with and express ourselves in an appropriate manner without taking it out on others around us, i.e. our family. So yeah, that's a big part of our process right now, is untangling all of those trauma-based associations and learning what is an appropriate reaction and what isn't, and catching ourselves to act and not just react. And it's hard. It's very hard, and it gets us angry, because it's like, damn it, we already went through the assault. We've already been physically and sexually and emotionally abused, and we still carry the weight of all this, every bit of it, locked into our very cells. And we can never have vengeance against them. We can never have closure, and we have to carry and deal with all of these side effects. We have to be the ones to now pick up the pieces and put ourselves back together as best we can and try to live our best life. And yeah, it pisses us off, because it's not fair. And they're just going to get away with it. They may have put it out in their minds. They're going to lie or obfuscate, and we're never going to get any of that stuff that is rightfully us. And this is where the anger can get turned back in on yourself, because you can't express it to your abusers because you may still be with them, and expressing that anger is not healthy. It all feeds back. But thank you. It's nice to have that external validation. Let's see here. Blue Rose says, on another note, the 3-ball demonstration you did really helped with our guilt, blame, shame cycle. Yes. Thank you. We've actually considered, because that's at the very end of that live stream, we've actually considered doing that as just a separate little short blip of an episode. So if you guys would like to see that again, because we know that a large part of our audience missed that, so we may very well just re-record that as a separate bit, just to help to get that point across. But thank you for that. Bit of our past proving to be of current note and related. And actually, there's another one, which is actually more of a visual actual piece of magic rather than a piece of mentalism, that we went, oh, hey, we can tie that in as well. So we may throw that one at you guys. But so if you'd like to see the 3 balls thing done as a little separate episode, we know that you guys have already went through it, but literally you can go through it a second or even a third time if you want. Because you're not going to find out how it works, so just enjoy the magic. But we're glad that had an impact, and a positive one on you, and helped. So yeah. About our daughter, yeah, it was, and she's so brave. She's so strong, and she's so brave, but she worked so hard, and actually against, because we went to see it with her, And the whole cast brought her up on the end for the curtain call. We kind of rolled the dice a little bit and told her that she could perform as long as she didn't do any dancing. And they were right there holding her hand and everything. But she just felt inside that she needed to tap out, as she said, and decided after the one part that she was in to go ahead and come back and sit in the audience. But all of her friends around her were just immensely supportive and have been, and it's really nice to see as an individual, as a parent that didn't have those kind of friendships, that didn't have that kind of support, to see that she's got that, and it's kind of like, oh, we're kind of jelly, but at the same time, it's a heartwarming thing because it's like, okay, thank God, at least, our children are forming healthy associations, something that we didn't have. Yeah, yes, we must have done something right with the help of our wife, who is absolutely marvelous and patient and loving and understanding beyond the limits of a normal human being, let me tell you. We are very lucky. We're very lucky to have all of our family members in our life, and sticking with us because, no. Anyway, yes. Actually, I was saying, yeah, they're theater kids too. That's like a personal nightmare. Yeah, it was just terrible. Fortunately, at least she got to do opening night when they were doing the filming and whatnot. So at least there's that. But yeah, after busting her butt all that time just to be knocked out, almost literally by just some kid being stupid. Just we're angry for her, and we're starting to experience it now because, of course, irrational, angry dad was not going to help things at that matter, and we switch into crisis mode, and Data and Boots take over, and reason and reason prevails until finally things settle down, which was about 2:30 in the morning last night, and we can allow ourselves to react. But yeah, she's doing okay. She's doing okay. Let's see. Hit the middle of the head there. Many times it's so hard to be the bigger person. Yeah. And yet, if you don't, yeah, here it gets into weird circular trains of thoughts and things like that. But we're glad that you got it. Blue Rose, the right after birth stuff makes us really loopy. Got to go. Okay, sorry about that, Blue Rose. Go self-care. Okay, thank you. Sorry about that. Like I said, we try to be realistic, but not overwhelm you guys. Ellie's saying, it's funny how later on, after thinking the therapist is dumb, that one notices that she had a point and knew what she was doing to get us better. Yeah, and this comes into the perspective. We are in it, so we can't see it, and we need to rely on the outside perspective of those around us. For example, our family members telling us, well, you said this, or you said that, or we had this conversation, and we were like, no, we didn't. I never said that. We never said that. That never happened. We think that they're gaslighting us and fucking with our heads, when in fact, no, we just don't remember it, and they do, and we have to trust them. And that was a hard one lesson that we're still trying not to beat ourselves up about. So yeah, learning all the time. So we hear you, Ellie, there. Yeah. So yeah, Blue Rose, please go self-care. 5 Pieces 9, we believe in you more than we believe in ourselves in a good way as we are working on the ladder. Thank you, that's humbling, but please don't put us on a pedestal or anything. We are just as picked up as the rest of you are. We are just better at hiding it, and we choose deliberately not to show a lot of the, oh, we're out of control, or we're having a traumatic day and we want to share it with you guys, la 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 la, just to get, ass pats or pats on the head or positive. Partly because of the way that we grew up, partly because of the abuse, partly just because of the way that men were expected to work when we were growing up. We've always been cry at the drop of a hat type guys. Didn't wonder why all those EPs leaking out. We were never afraid to show our feelings, but men are sexualized differently, and we're taught to keep it down and keep it under wraps and not deal with that. True strength is not showing your feelings and being strong for everybody else. Which of course is absolute and complete utter rubbish. So thank you, Ilian Cloud 9. We appreciate that. We do understand what you're saying, but please, guys, don't look at us and think that we've got everything all figured out. Just because we're all bright and shiny and respectable and seem together when we're on live streams or on our episodes, what you're seeing is what you're seeing. This is the closest that you'll get to the real us behind the scenes things. Just because we try to keep things within the bounds of good taste. And there are certain things that we won't show just simply because they're exploitative. You know, there are other channels and people who that's their thing, and that's cool. Knock yourself out, fly that flag. But that's not us, and that's not the way that we present things. And maybe that's limiting some of the support that we might get from you guys. But because of the trauma and everything, we had to make ourselves be self-sufficient. So, and plus we were raised with tact and manners. They're okay, they went way overboard admittedly, but there's just certain things that should not be talked about or discussed in polite conversation. So there's that. We're gonna start ranting again, but thank you, Five. But we just wanted to clarify that, okay? And particularly for our new folks who don't understand the way that we work, and maybe coming from other channels and expecting certain things and not finding it here. And if you prefer that, head on out. You know, it's no skin off our noses. It's cool. Everybody finds something that speaks to them differently. Okay, so Spindle, you're taking off. Thank you very much for talking in. Sounds like some folks are going out. No. That's Pia. Don't. That was probably purely us. Don't worry about it. And like we said, we do get talking about serious stuff sometimes. So if you guys need to check out, don't feel bad about it. Just do it. You know, self-care, that's the most important thing. System safety first. So, yes, that. Let's see here. Rosa is saying, just literally found some old trauma trigger worksheets a couple of hours ago. Laugh out loud. Yeah, okay, it's okay. Five said they're saying they're attempting to be validating, though they were never properly taught how to be validating. We were never properly taught how to be accepting and gracious and taking compliments, so we're working hand in hand there. But we do understand what you're saying, and thank you very much for that. We do appreciate it. Let's see. Actually, saying that they cope by doing research, so your channel is extremely helpful. Thank you. We're glad that it's getting across. We try to give you guys a better picture, rather than just going on all the details and whatnot, which we could do, but it wouldn't serve any purpose. Okay, guys, it's about 3:30, and as Jocelyn pointed out to us, we still have yet to eat our orange, so we need to get some fuel into our bodies here. And basically that's it. And I think there's a couple of other things that we need to do around the house. We're not sure because that's separate mind alter thing for later. So we're going to go ahead and wrap up the stream. We'd like to thank you guys, thank all of our newer viewers for coming to the channel. I know a lot of you have come through in recently through Moon Knight, which has just exploded way beyond what we ever thought it would be. And thank you also, Roses, for giving us the okay / cluing us in that, yes, this would be acceptable and it's germane and relevant, and to encourage us to go ahead and do that. So thank you again, friend, for giving us that little necessary shove. All of the rest of you, feel free to, as always, drop questions or comments or anything on any of the stuff. Don't be afraid to necro post. Dig around in the playlist to find content, and just, yeah, check it out. That's your thoughts. And we're going to go and sign off here. Thank you guys very much for tuning in. Thank you for your support of the channel. And as we continue to grow on forward, don't be afraid to drop suggestions, comments, thoughts, or anything you want to talk about. Okay, guys, we're going to go ahead and sign off. And as always, say it with us. We remind you that you are loved, that you are strong, and that you are not alone. All right, guys, thank you very much. This is Chris and Data and whoever else might be lurking at the moment. Infinity System signing off. We'll see you in our next review of Moon Knight, which will probably be up about Tuesday or Wednesday. We're going to be realistic on it because it's a lot to dig through. Okay, guys, we'll talk to you later. See you on the flip side. Have a great day and self-care, everybody.